And the development of our haputanga going forward into the future, as we mature to those stages. In terms of the changes from the punga stage to the tumutumu, I only have practical, I think, suggestions in those areas. And, in the aka nui area, the whare taonga, integrating that with the present tourism network that exists in the Rohe, and even further to our whanaunga in Waikato Tainui, and providing that sustainability in those areas. I think it will appeal to the general public as well if we have that whare taonga in place. In the Mātauranga area, embedding the local history, our kōrero tuku iho in the curriculum, which presently legislation has sort of had a retreat on that, but we've got to work towards that. I know it's in our kohanga and, of course, our wharekura, and then, taking it out on the digital platform too for our whānau and for our iwi. In the taiao space, our taiao champions within our hapu takiwā that are always at the forefront and seen by the whānau and by the hapu. In the whole water space, maybe a CT, MRI scanners at Te Kuiti Hospital, a real practical way that we can have early detection in those health issue areas. And in the whānaki stage, the papakainga development on our maraes that can sustain our maraes and the digital economic platforms too. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou.
Kia ora huia. Very well thought through and laid out plan. Appreciate the effort. During the day I'm going to do this, so you'll have to forgive me, but did you hear about the scarecrow that got a medal? He was outstanding in his field. Right, next we're going to bring up, hey, it was a good one, come on now. We're going to bring up Natasha, and once again, Natasha, you got your 5 minutes when you start, and listen for the bell whānau. Kia ora.
It's a bit tall. How do I get it down? I'll just pull it down. Whakarongo ake au ki te tangi a te manu I runga I te rangi e karanga mai ana kei whea tō mana me te iwi Māori e. Kokoe, manu I runga I te rangi tēnā whakarongo mai. Ko te mana I ahau no aku tūpuna, me whakarere aku iho au e hi, au e ha. Tēnei te mihi nunui ki a koutou katoa te whānau. He rau keke ki uta, he rau pingao ki tai. He rau pāhara keke e tupu ana I runga I te whenua. Whiriwhiri ia ngā rau e ita me ngā tai. Rangaranga hia ngā kōrero tuku iho me ngā wawata o ngā rangatahi. Tuituia ngā whānau me ngā marae o mania poto me rere ahu. Whatu hia ngā wawata mo ngā mokapuna katoa. Ko wai ahau ko Natasha Willison tōku ingoa, he uri anō mō ngā hapu he maha kei te uta, kei te tai hoki. I stand here to stand as a trustee. I want to continue to build great mahi that has already been done before me. There are many names that I hold from the experience that I had back in the day, working alongside some of the most amazing mentors that I've ever had. And I want to name a couple of them, and one of them is Auntie Rahira Douglas Barrett. As a rangatahi going off the rails, she brought many of us back into a space of early childhood. She helped us go through and become early childhood teachers with a tohu, something that we never thought we would. Being hapu at 17 years of age and her having the belief in us to take us through to these spaces. So I love and miss Auntie Rahira, and she was a great influence and role model for me. I also want to mihi to my Uncle John Kati, who raised me and gave me some really good kōrero about building relationships and community. Didn't matter where they came from and who they were. So that's something really, really important to me. To my late Uncle Tifa Bell, who, when I came back to the board to do some mahi, reconnected my whakapapa te Auntie Ringi Ringi. My mum was a first cousin to her and taught me lots about that whakapapa. So I hold him very close to my heart. Uncle Bob Korohege, someone that when we went into the board, you saw the smile, and he always had a hand on our shoulder. Uncle Piripi Crown, who helped us to develop ngā tamariki o Rereahu. He helped us to give us information around our tūpuna and put those into book form. And I cannot forget te whakautinga Pua, Uti Pua, who was someone that was really close to my heart, who did so much for us as whānau, as marae, as rangatahi. Today I acknowledge all the current trustees, a significant piece of mahi that everybody's done, all the team, the staff, everybody in Te Nehenehenui. We might not know everything that you do in there, but we know that mahi has been done. I'm standing to contribute and to support the mahi and help maintain a momentum towards Te Tumutumu 2037. I bring my own experience in governance, community, and in business, as we have held a whānau business for the last 30 years. There are areas where I believe I can make a strong contribution, and that's whānau, taiao, and Māori-led economics. But sitting across all these three is something that is very important to me. We need to make mokopuna decisions. And that's how I like to think about any decision that we're making is for my moko that are coming after me. So I'll just come right down to the bottom. So what do I stand for? Whānau, taiao, marae and mokopuna. That is how I think that I can contribute to what's happening now. And one more plug, we've got all the permitting for the petroleum happening out on our coast, so we'd like everybody to keep an eye on that. Kia ora.
Ka pai. All right, homai te paki kia rawa. It's hard work when you've got to come up here and stand on your principles and talk to the kaupapa that you really want to drive through our board, but I take my hat off to you both for doing this today. What we're going to do now is we're going to bring you guys back up later on for Q&A, and then the next thing we'll do is we'll roll into some of the videos for those that couldn't attend today. Just one piece of information I failed to mention earlier is that if you have any questions around Election NZ, we've got Isaiah down the back here. Put your hand up there, bro. There he goes. He's with Election NZ. He's also got some forms there if you want to vote today, or if you want to get any information from him, he's the man to go to. So anyway, one last round of applause for our two kura tau whānau. Ka pai kōrua. Right, so the next piece is we're going to just jump into some videos. There are two videos that need to be played today, and I'm hoping that if I keep clicking, this is going to work. Right, so first off, apologies. So I got Te Miri Takare once again provided her apology that she couldn't be here today. But for those of you who know Te Miri, she's definitely a young leader and coming up and an exceptional talent from the Maniapoto pool. So ka ora haave to Te Miri for not being able to be here today. But our next candidate is also Kruja Wetere. Kruja also can't be here today. I believe he's out at Pokai. That being said, he also gives his apologies and has been on the board for the last few years, and just wanted to say give his apologies and his best wishes to all the candidates. Here we go. Kurerere. Now, first video is coming from Renee Moana, and I'm not sure if the team are just going to hit the button or if it does it itself. I got to hit the button. Right, here we go.
Ko te wehi kia I hoa o ngā mano, te tīmatanga o te whakaaranui. E whakahonuritia te ariki nui koini ngā waihono i te pō, pai mārire. Ko tama kaiuru ki te rangi, ko rere ahu ki te whenua, mai rangi toto ki tūhua, ko renei mo ana hau, tēnā koutou katoa. E tautoko ana i ngā mihi ki te kaiwhakariti o te rangi, tēnā koe e ko. Kia koutou e paina, koutou e are tangana atu i o koutou kainga maha puta noa i te motu, mauri ora. Me ko ke tātou ki te pātai o te rangi nei. So as a trustee, how would I maintain momentum and support the goals of Tumu Tumu 2037? For me, maintaining momentum is about 3 key areas: accountability, alignment and delivery. Knowing where we're going, measuring our progress and ensuring our people remain connected to the journey. Te kawa rukuroa gives us that pathway. Punga, tumu tumu, rukuroa, towards te whatu maturangi. And its heart, he iwi punga kainga. Our people are grounded in who we are wherever we live. He iwi tumu tumu, vigilant and enabled. He iwi rukuroa, empowered. Accountability. As a trustee, I would ask, are we on track? What's working? Where are the gaps? What must change? From economic growth and housing to hauora to our identity, mātauranga and the capability of our whare. We need clear measures and honest reporting. And importantly, do our people know? Whether you live in the rohe or further afield, you deserve to understand what is happening, why decisions are being made, and how we're progressing. We shouldn't have to live in the rohe to be connected to our iwi. Transparency builds trust. Trust builds momentum. Alignment. Te Nehenehenui cannot achieve Tumu Tumu 2037 alone. Our entities have an important role, but the key is alignment. Clear priorities, strong relationships, and shared accountability. Our uri are spread across. It's our superpower. We need meaningful pathways for our uri wherever we live to connect, participate, contribute, and find our way home. As a trustee, I would help ensure our entities and whare are moving together with our people, being able to see how the pieces fit together. Delivery. Economic prosperity must be about more than growing assets. It's about what that growth enables. Housing, employment, business opportunities, investment in our marae, greater mana motuhake. I bring commercial and strategic experience that can support strong governance and oversight. But equally important is whakatopu, whānau, marae and hapu development. Every marae matters, every uri matters. Our haikainga keep the ahi ka burning. They uphold our tikanga, keep for our marae, whenua, and hold our identity in place. We must support them with the resources and capability to achieve their aspirations. And for our uri living outside the rohe, we must create ways to remain connected through mātauranga, digital engagement, hui, and opportunities to contribute. Our responsibility is to connect the strength of our people wherever they live with the strength of our rohe. Because Tumu Tumu 2037 is not just about where we're going, it's about taking our whole iwi with us. I bring governance experience, strategic thinking, commercial understanding, and strong relationships. But above all, I bring commitment to tikanga, integrity, and service. Our tupuna laid the foundation. Our responsibility is to build on it, grounded in who we are, vigilant in our decisions, and empowered to shape our future. He iwi punga kainga, he iwi tumu tumu, he iwi ruku roa tātou. Ko renei mo ana ahau, pai mārire.
Well, big thanks to Renee for taking time to do that. Pretty well laid out plans and thoughts too. So our next one is going to be Riria Te Kanawa, aka Missy. And I'm just going to, hopefully this one will click. No.
I rere nei ngā mihi ki tō tātou ariki nui a koini ngā waihono i te pō, pai mārire. Ka huri kia koutou kua wihi atu ki te pō. Ki te tini i tō taha ko te wha koutou katoa rā, haere, haere, haere atu rā. Hoki mai ki a tātou ngā waihotanga, kei ngā kururuhi, kei ngā kukoroheke, me te iwi whānui e noho mai nā ki Ōtorohanga, I rere nei taku aroha ki a koutou. Huri tēnei no Ngāti Kinohaku, Ngāti Rora, Ngāti Paretikawa me Ngāti Uakaha. Ko riria, me ki ko misi te kanoa hau, he mokopuna nā tana rawa ko diga te kanoa, tamāhine nā dēni rawa ko Malaina, he hoa wahine a Che, he māma ki a hine rawa mua me te kanoa. Firstly, I'm sorry I couldn't be there after the date was brought forward by a day. Heoi, I'm grateful to Te Nehenehenui for the chance to share a short kōrero with you all in this way. I want to acknowledge all of the candidates for putting their hands up because it gives our people choices. And particularly, I'm grateful and excited to be standing as part of a team with Te Miri, Leylin and Jackie. We all bring a range of experiences, strengths, views and a love of home, and we have a tikanga to work through the things we might not agree on. And it's pretty simple, you know, be respectful, be open and focus on what will deliver the outcomes for our people. Because governance isn't an individual sport, serving our people requires those who can work together, challenge each other and still move forward together. And I'm confident we can carry that approach through to the full trustee group if we were successful. The decisions around the table, they have to include all the voices and not just the select few. And there are two kaupapa that bring us together, māramatanga and ahika. So māramatanga, about open and honest, transparent and accountable, and growing the understanding of our people and their confidence to question, because it's only when there's tightness on that rope that we can make sure performance is good for everyone. And I know that even if our people don't know the technicals, we can all feel pono in our puku. Ahika want to ensure that relevant decisions are made closer to the whare, closer to the marae, where they impact them. It's also important to enable them so that that can happen through a well thought through approach that's designed with them. And we also need our whare and marae to be strong so that our people, whether they're at home or whether they're away, can connect to themselves again. But there's a few other important things for me. Mahi tahi, that's about working together as a whole board, but also te nehenehenui, collaborating with other entities within our tribal boundaries rather than competing. I think it's about connection, providing the platform for marae to share what they wish to share with their whānau, whether that's waiata, whether that's kōrero or anything else, you know, one investment, but everybody can draw on it. What can I bring? I think governance experience. I've been on MMTB before, and I'm currently on Wakatu Incorporation and Te Here Anuku Trust down south, and both of those are with Uncle Pat. I'm also on Auckland Uni Services. They commercialise science and research. And I've just finished up at Te Wharekura o Maniapoto on their board as well. Got a willingness to stand up for what I feel is right and stand up against what I feel isn't right. And I'll back that up with evidence, analysis, logic and facts. I'm happy to share the experience from the mahi that I've done with different iwi entities across the motu, where I've learned as much from them as hopefully they have from me. Got some strong relationships and networks, and through those, you know, there are opportunities. And then finally, you know, there's my professional experience as a chartered accountant, so I can understand the numbers, but also help others to do the same. And finally, it's just honesty. Even where that means we have to face the heat, I believe it's better to be honest than trying to placate everybody. So just in finishing, thank you all for turning up today. Once again, I apologise, but hopefully all of the candidates will give you a choice from which you make your decision. Obviously, our team, Te Miri, Jackie, Leylin and myself, hope you choose us. Tēnā tātou.
Ka pai. At this point, I think we're going to ask all of our kura rere reps that are here now, if you can come take a seat up along the front zone so all of our whānau can get a good look at you. Helps to have faces to names. And then when you're all seated, I'm going to have a go through the list of our speakers. Yep, I'll go through the order shortly. Did anybody hear about that dog that got lost in the fog? It was missed. Yeah. See, it just takes one laugh and I'm just going to be here all day, people. Ka pai. All right, so it's a good thing they can't take the mic from me. Right, we're going to kick off the next part of our kaupapa for the day. Oh, I think I might have broken that. We've got Rachel Tūwhāngai coming up first, and just another reminder, can I hear the sound of the bell when they've got 30 seconds to go? See how polite that one is? Give them a good hard one for the 5 minutes, please. Ka pai. All right, so without further ado, let's put our hands together for Rachel Tūwhāngai, who's coming up to be our first kaupapa today.
Kia ora. Well, tuatahi me mihi ka tika ki tō tātou nei whare. Hari kwana ahau kia tū kei roti te whare nei. No te mea ko tēnei tuku kura tawhito i ngā tau uamua. So me mihi ka tika kia aia. Me mihi hoki tātou ki te ariki nui ngā waihono i te pō me ngā te pā whakamanawa me ki no te mea kei te noho tātou ki konei. Hoia no e tūtono ana te paukai. Me mihi hoki ahau ki tōku whānau e whakarite ana mo te hura kōhatu o tōku tuakana e tū ana pōpō comics in tira. Hoia no, kei konei ahau, kei kāwhia rātou e whakarite ana. Me huri au kia tātou ngā kaitono, hari koana te ngākau kia kite te maha, te toko maha o ngā tāngata e tū ana no te mea aroha nui ana tātou katoa ki tō tātou iwi. E hara te mea whakamutinga, engari kia koutou te mininga, kua tai mai tēnei rā, tēnā tātou katoa. Ai, ko Rachel Tūwhāngai tōku ingoa, ko Kumātua, ko Nick Tūwhāngai, ko Linda Tūwhāngai. Nō reira te taho tōku pāpā, ko Waikato tērā, ko Maniapoto hoki tērā, ko tō mātou marae ki kāwhia. Ki te taho tōku māma, ko te whānau me ki Koroheke, Davis, Green, Barrett, hoki tērā. E tako toana o ku tupuna a Kelly Koroheke, me tōna whānau ki Tokanui, ki te mawhai, ki te taho tōku pāpā, e tako toana o mātou tupuna ki kāwhia, ki te rohi o Tamoho, Ngāti Wairere hoki. So e tū ana hau I tēnei wā, hei mema o te puari. So I'm currently a board member. So currently a Nehenehenui trustee and also chair of Te Waihukirangi, which is the charitable arm of the trust. So Waihukirangi is the arm that distributes the grants and distributions, and we're always plugging for more people to apply. Ko etahi atu pōtai, other pōtai that I wear. I'm currently the chair of the Auckland Museum. I'm also a member of the Northern Health School Trust Board, Presbyterian Support Northern, and have held a range of other... Somebody's trying to call me from Kawhia, sorry. Kei te huri au ki te pātai, how would you continue to move the trajectory of the strategy? So, tuatahi ko akanui. So that's all about whānau, whenua, marae, and speaking as a current trustee, I'm really proud of the mahi that the trust has done in terms of giving distributions to marae. So every marae gets $10,000 currently. The trust board have provided opportunities for whānau to apply and purchase to buy lands back under the settlements. And I know that there are a lot of marae really grateful for that kind of support. My day job is in Mātauranga, so previously a secondary school teacher, university lecturer, and now I work closely with the Ministry of Education on building schools, supporting boards of trustees, supporting the ministry to make sure that we deliver high quality Māori education. One of the things that a connection between the whare taonga mahi and education is I'm currently writing a qualification for Awanuiarangi around conservatorship. So Auckland Museum is working in partnership with Te Nehenehenui to get iwi members qualified, we hope, so that when hopefully a wharetaonga will be established in the rohe, and through various partnerships, iwi members can be qualified to be able to look after those taonga when museums hand those taonga back. So Auckland Museum is one of those working really closely with Ngāti Maniapoto, with Te Nehenehenui, to be able to return taonga, and we want to get people qualified. I'm also working with different iwi groups at the moment, Ngāti Apakura, and also Take Tai Waiohua, in writing their local stories. Thank you. Writing local stories so that they can move into education. When I first came onto this board, I was really keen on supporting kaumātua, tamariki and education, and I note the bells, so I'm not going to go on about that, but my goals haven't changed, so tēnā tātou.
Kia ora, Rachel. Thank you very much for that. As you can see, our first cab off the rank, and I mean, we've just got so much talent here today, so it's just appreciate you all for making the time. Our next candidate coming up is going to be Jackie Taitua Ngāwaka.
Rāranga, hine te iwa e, hara ke pingao, me te kie e, te nehenui e. Mihi ki te whare, mihi ana kia koutou katoa korau i ka mai, mo te kaupapa o te rā nei, tangihia rā nā mate, haere a te rātou. Ki te pūtahi nui o rehua. Tautoko ani nā mihi ki tō tātou ariki nui, nā waihonu te pō, rātou katoa te kāhui ariki. Ko rere ahu te tūpuna, nōna hapu maha o Ngāti Maniapoto tēnei, Ngāti rere ahu, Ngāti Maniapoto, Ngāti Kinohaku, Ngāti Matakore, Ngāti Urunumia, Ngāti Paretekawa. Nō reira tēnā koutou, ko aku marae, ko ōpārure marae, taku ukaipo. Engari, nō te hape, nō mga pēhi, nō te kotahitanga, tāre wānga, nō pōhatuiri, nō napinapi, nō mga toatoa o ku tūpuna. Ko Piri Rawa, ko Gloria, aku mātua, ko Jackie Taitua ahau. Tēnā tātou. Thank you for the question, te nehenehenui. When I think about how we keep our momentum going, I don't think it starts with the strategy documents itself. I think it starts with whether our people know and trust the direction that we're going in, or that we're supposed to be going in, and that they know it enough to stay engaged in it. And so I've been talking a lot lately about māramatanga. Missy talked a bit about that too. With her and Te Miri and Leyland, we've been talking together about these things. You know, that idea of just clear, transparent governance. And I've also said that I think it's an example of that is something like having just a simple summary of what was decided at every board hui shed sort of soon after. You know, just something easy to read so you actually know what happened and why. I think that's one simple example maybe of what that means. And this is why I think that matters for momentum, because that was the kiko of the pātai, I think. You know, some of our people haven't always felt that close or haven't felt close to or part of the decisions that have affected them. And I don't think that's anyone's fault to dwell on, but it is something that I want to help change. And in my experience in governance and in management, any long-term goals only hold up if people stay with it the whole way. And I think that transparency is the thing that keeps people walking alongside that strategy. If we want to keep the momentum up as well and, keep moving forward in the years ahead and for our moko and everyone after us, then for me that surely means enabling the whare and the marae too, not just the board or the organisation. And that's the second piece we've been going on about, that ahika, that, literally keeping the home fires burning for us here, for those here and those that live away from home. And so I think that means giving our whare groups real decision-making authority and actual delegated power to make the calls that affect them in their own space. Because momentum isn't just what happens at the top table, it's about whether our people have got the ability to actually move themselves forward in their own lives. So, to bring it together, my contribution to momentum is those two concrete commitments that I'll push as hard as I can for. A simple, easy to follow summary after every hui and decision-making power that sits with whare. Because the reality is a strategy document doesn't move on its own. It needs people. People move it, and only if they trust where it's going. And I want to earn that trust. That's the difference that I want to bring to this mahi. Aku nui, aku rahi. Huri noa i te whare, tēnā tautau. Tūrau te Nehenehenui.
Hey, kia ora, Jackie. Thank you very much for that. As you can see, we're going to move on to our next person. And before we do, I was just going to ask that if you are going to get up and move to a cup of tea or make your way out, if you can practice your light-footed tippy toes. While our people are speaking, they probably don't need the Clydesdale sound in the background, as I've been informed. So kia ora whānau. Our next person coming up is Te Hāte Whara.
Tai here te pō, tai here te ao titoko te ao maramati hei, mauri ora. I want to start by saying they said my number was 11th and somehow I'm 4th on the queue. What will I do to ensure the trajectory and momentum of Te Nehenehenui? Well, I'll start by getting the order list correct, eh? Hoi anō. Whakatau I honga manaakitanga o te runga rawa ki runga ki tō tātou ariki nui a kuini ngā waihono I te pō. O te rā ki runga ki a tātou katoa e pai nei, rire hau, a pai mā rire. Ki te kotahi te kākaho, ka whati. Ki te kāpuia, e kore e whati. Alone, perhaps not, but together we absolutely can. My name is Te Hāte, and I'm a descendant from Kakepuku, Pirongia, Whare Pūhunga, and Maunga Tautari Maunga. He uri tēnei no Ngāti Huiao, no Ngāti Ngutu. He uri tēnei no Ngāti Paia, no Ngāti Unu, no Ngāti Kahu. I was raised in the schools of knowledge of my elders from Te Kōpua and from Mangatotoa Marae, and I'm honoured to be standing here in front of you all today, and to be all honest, shaking my boots to stand in front of you as a candidate for Ngā Kurarere trustee of our post-settlement governance entity of Maniapoto, Te Nehenehenui. Now, we were asked today to talk about how we think we can contribute to the momentum and upward trajectory to achieve the Tumutumu 2037 medium-term goals of Te Kāwau Rukuroa. And I thought, how best do I answer this question? Firstly, I wanted to answer by saying some of those speeches up there, I think, were ChatGPT readouts, if you didn't notice. So I'm going to try and avoid and speak to you from the ngākau today. The ways that I think that I can contribute positively to the momentum is I'm not here today to stand in front of you as a competitor against the beautiful calibre of talent that we've got here. I'm here to stand in front of you as a representative and an uri of Maniapoto to go look at the beautiful talent that our iwi has to offer. Not only am I here to say that, but I want to say that also the pool of talent that exists within Maniapoto, this is but a glimpse. The majority of the talent the knowledge, the skill sets, the people on the ground who do the mahi are not here in this room today. They're out there in their homes doing the mahi at Paukai, watching perhaps the live sheave and critiquing with their questions that they're going to ask later. So I want to stand here to say it is an absolute honour and a privilege to be here alongside the beautiful and talented people that our iwi have to offer and who have put their hands up today to be a candidate as a trustee for Te Nehenehenui. One of the ways that I wish to contribute my experience and my skill set to achieving the goals of Tumutumu 2037 are to look at exactly what Te Tumutumu aims to achieve. One of the things, and this is the list of what I've gathered, 1,000 whānau in safe, secure and quality housing, an economic base beyond $400 million, whare managing their own cultural, social and taiao projects. Mātauranga Māori, reo and tikanga are preserved and flourishing, and the health and well-being outcomes of our people are at least equal to that of non-Māori. Firstly, I want to touch on the health and well-being. My experience working for the district, Waikato District Health Board as a health improvement advisor for population health, which is the public health arm of the Waikato District Health Board, taught us that health and well-being is broken down into so many determinants of health. These are things such as income, education, employment, access to healthcare, housing. This is how broad that one bullet point that says health and well-being outcomes at least equal to non-Māori, that's how broad that one bullet point, what that truly looks like. So my contribution is ensuring that TNN and the Board of Trustees looks at all of the things that determine a person's health and well-being, their social cohesion, their connectedness to their communities, their connectedness to their marae, but more importantly, their connectedness to their own whakapapa. Your own whakapapa, your own kōrero tuku iho. 100 and so many years ago, colonisation came over to Aotearoa, and it had a significant impact of which we all know today. The effects are still being felt today, and there's still a lot of work to be done to get us out of that muck, and that's what I promise you. Ko te hā te whara ki ngua, tēnā koutou katoa.
Tēnā koe Te Hāte. And if you recognise the dulcet tones of Te Hāte, it's also because he was on Maniapoto FM, as well as many other radio stations. That beautiful voice can be heard on the airways. Kia ora whānau. Just as we're going to go into our next candidate, I'd like to welcome up Bella Takiari-Brame.
E oku rangatira, e oku huanga e noho ana I raro I te manaakitanga te rungaranga wā tēnā koutou. I tautoko au nā mihi kua mahia. Ko waia hau, I te tau tōku pāpā, ko Atarea Takiari, no kāwhia moana me mōkau ki runga, no te whānau o Takiari Terry Green, ko te mania rākau nui tōku marae, ko mania roa tōku marae. I te tau o tōku whaia, ko Atiria Takiari Ni McNaught, no te whānau Omapi Tūna, no Ngāti Rora hau, ko Tikwiti Pā tōku marae, ko Bella Takiari-Brame tōku ingoa. How do I follow that? I was number 12 also, and now I'm number 5, and I'll have to throw my ChatGPT speech aside, so wish me luck whānau. First, I'd like to acknowledge all those trustees that I have served with over the last decade, some of them who are no longer with us. Uncle Tifa, Uncle John Kāti, Ronnie, and Auntie Ravina, who I spent a long time travelling with during our settlement hui. Haere, haere, haere atura. My name is Bella. I was born in Te Kuiti, raised in Māhoenui, and educated in Piopio. You can read my profile in terms of my education and my experience. But as I reflect on Tumutumu, and I've actually had to sort of reflect on myself because I helped write that document, and I just want to acknowledge all those whānau that contributed to the mātauranga to form Te Kāwau Rukurua. As we move into the tumutumu phase, and I must say, whānau, 5 years of punga phase has gone fast. And I have heard that we haven't brought everyone along. So I'd like to think that I will step into the next term with my ears open. I've learnt that a lot from sitting alongside the likes of Uncle Tifa and our katoa and our kuia, that you just sit and listen. And so the first exercise must be, as the Nehenehenui, the trust must go out and talk to the people and ask them what you want us to do for tumutumu. As that kawo sits perched and readies its perch, ready to dive towards 2050. We must reflect, whānau, that we're 5 years post-settlement. After 150 years of suppression, marginalisation, traumatisation, land loss, language loss, and we exist within a system that creates inequities for us, which Te Hate has eloquently outlined. So how do we move forward, and we're only 5 years into our journey towards prosperity for our whānau, for our mokopuna, who will be strong in their identity, who will be happy and healthy. That is the ultimate vision. Our whānau are thriving. We hope that we don't take 150 years to get there like it took 150 years for us to get here. So we need to be sharp, we need to be focused, and we need to move together. As many of our speakers have highlighted, we need to move forward together. So everybody that's involved in Te Nehenehenui, right from the trust to its subsidiaries, i.e. Waihikurangi, Ahuahu, to our advisory groups, to our whānau outside of the rohe, to our whānau inside of the rohe, keeping the home fires burning. We need to move forward together so we can reach that goal of prosperity a lot sooner. I must reflect on some things that I've done and I do now. I'm a full-time director. I sit on many boards across the rohe. Apart from all the mahi that I've done with the Nehenehenui in the last 11 years, and it's been an honour, whānau, you keep putting me back in here. But the Lions Company, as the chair of the board, we have partnered with Te Nehenehenui. We have put solar panels on. We have put power points on, generators, so we can create resilient hubs. We have funded Maru Trust to ensure that our houses are insulated so we reduce the price of power. We have empowered the North King Country Development Trust to ensure that our small businesses thrive. I will just finish, whānau, that let's be kind to each other. Let's have compassion for each other in our journey. Kia ora katoa.
Kia ora, Bella. Thank you very much for that. I'd just like to explain, we started with our kuratou, which is why the numbers started at 1 and 2. There were 2 gaps in there, so yes, we are rapidly moving through the list, so brace for impact. Hey, what do you guys call a fish with no eyes? Right. We're going to move on next. See, just breaking the tension. Just got to keep the wairua high. Right. Our next person coming up is Chris Koroheke.
Ia ku koroheke a ku ruruhi, tēnei rā te mihi atu kia koutou. Aku iti, aku rahi, tēnā koutou katoa ko tai mai nei, tēnei rangi. And to the candidates, tēnā koutou katoa. When I look across there, I was thinking like, I'm just going to go home and pack up because very articulate and there's a breadth of experience there. When I think about how I can contribute, I think about how I was raised and who raised me as the beginning point. So I thought I'd write down a few things just to stay on track and stay within that 5 minutes. But as a person, I feel that I'm diligent and resilient. I see opportunities, but understand due diligence. I was raised in a whare where both my parents spoke te reo and they were brought up by their grandparents, and so they were old school in their values. And that's how I was raised. I was raised in a big whānau, ko Chris Koroheke tōku ingoa. I'm the son of Bob Koroheke and Terehia McMath. And on my northern side, I come from Ngāti Wai, Te Rarawa Te Aupōuri. And I had the privilege to work amongst those people as well, as I was sent away to help out amongst the whānau. I've travelled widely amongst my whānau, and I've learnt the value systems and how to communicate and how to keep things real. Because being a koroheke, you have to keep things real at the pā. I learnt my skills, I would say, in the 25 years that I've been at Te Kauai, 18 of them as chairperson, but really I was the tono of my father, grandmother, the hotus, everyone else that was there. That's where I learnt how to communicate and how to act with humility but be very clear. And what I appreciated about them is they taught us to be very clear and direct and to the point. And I appreciated that about them. When it comes to my career, how can I contribute? Well, my heart began, I have 3 careers. My first love was a taiao. And so I went and learnt how decisions were made in regional councils, because I saw that the impact on us was negative. We needed to learn how to get into those organisations, infiltrate them. And so in my time in the regional councils in Wellington, Auckland and Waikato, my job was to manage tangata whenua representatives and get them to contribute to the decision-making processes. And I learnt that over 10 years. I thought about economic development, and then I went to work for an energy company where we developed wind farms, hydroelectrical farms, and geothermal. And geothermal was a really exciting space because it was just opening up. And hello, it was the Māori landowners who had marginal lands that had all the geothermal energy. And so the kāwanatanga had to go and talk to them. And I tell you what, they were very wily negotiators. They did some really good deals, and I learned a lot of the people in the central North Island Plateau, and our whanaungas over in Rotorua, Te Arawa, and you had to be sharp. I learnt how to communicate complex concepts, models, to a lot of those kaumātua, because if they didn't understand it, they weren't going anywhere. Finally, I had another shift in my career, and I moved into the science organisations, Crown Research Institutes they were then, and particularly into the agriculture, ag research. And I see Dean there. He was, we've got a lot of talent in that Māori agribusiness space. But my job was to manage research on Māori lands so that we understood how we would negotiate the changes that are coming upon us, particularly in the area of climate change. So I'm a big advocate of being resilient and understanding how to build strong communities, communicate there. I have a passion for supporting our rangatahi and putting them into places where they can thrive and carry on our legacy. I'm very passionate about that, so I won't keep going on. It's beautiful to see everybody here today, and nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora, Chris. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to our next candidate, who is, prepare yourself, Melissa Gage. Ka pai. Ho mai te pakipaki whānau.
Kia ora koutou, ko Purungia te maunga, ko Mokururua te awa, ko Ngāti Parewhata, ko Ngāti Paurahui, ngā hapu. He uri au no ngā marae maha o Maniapoto, ahakoa, ko turi te tōku ukaipo, ko turi te tōku marae. Ko Melissa Gage tōku ingoa, he uri au no te whānau Morgan, Jerry and Tāwhai. Tēnā koutou katoa te whānau e hui mai nei I tēnei rā, he honore tēnei ki te tui mui ia koutou, ki te kōrero I tēnei kaupapa nui. I stand before you as a committed kaitiaki, ready to help Te Nehenehenui maintain its momentum by making decisions that are evidence-based, tikanga-led and centred on our whānau. As a proactive marae committee member, I applied for the iwi internship to bring valuable governance experience back to our marae and future-proof it for our mokopuna. I successfully secured the role and served as your 2025-2026 intern trustee. Over the past 12 months, I sat at the governance table, contributed to critical decisions, and was directly involved in the major milestones achieved during the punga phase. That experience deepened my understanding of the responsibilities required to protect the prosperity and future of our people. Navigating these complexities and learning from the challenges has confirmed my readiness to step up. I will listen well and serve our people with absolute integrity. Like any strategy, it invites robust discussion. But Te Kāwau Rukuroa gives us a shared framework to focus our efforts and measure our progress. As we target Tumitumi 2037, our challenge is to keep the momentum while staying fiercely focused on the daily, real-world needs of our whānau. But as a trust, we must also keep our heads up, looking to the future as well. We will be relying heavily on the operational team, that's Sam and his team, to ensure the mahi that they do on an operational level ensures we meet those milestones, and if they don't, we must ask them why and keep them accountable. Moving from an intern trustee role to a full trustee role requires a sharp skill set, and my approach is guided by three things: informed evidence-based decision-making. Good governance requires evidence-based decisions, rigorous data analysis and active risk identification. As a senior investigator in the justice sector, I bring deep analytical discipline to the trustee table. I will scrutinise reports, consult subject experts and listen closely to our pukenga, our hapu, marae, kaumatua, rangatahi, whānau, and I will collaborate with our kuratau. Whether advancing cultural growth, economic expansion or kaumatua health insurance, every investment must be backed by solid evidence to ensure enduring prosperity for our people. Tuarua, steady, honest and accountable progress. We are entrusted to look after our assets for this generation and the next, a duty that demands unwavering focus, care and absolute transparency. I champion a future built on deliberate decision-making, achievable milestones, and clear measures of success. Our path forward must be highly practical, grounded in our tikanga, and accountable to the people we serve. Together, we will ensure steady, sustainable growth that honours our tupuna and protects our uri. Tuatoru, empowering whānau and fostering connection. Our strategic plans must deliver tangible benefits directly to our whānau, marae and communities. We are committed to preserving our whenua, strengthening our reo and accelerating economic growth through networks like Matakumea, Te Nehenehenui Business Collective. By empowering our tribal business owners, we ensure our whānau are active participants in the work and decision-making and the shared prosperity. My leadership style is grounded in truth, fairness and diligence. I listen first, ask precise questions and take the time to understand the information before forming a view. When an issue comes to the table, I focus on three things: how it affects whānau, what risks we need to manage and whether it aligns with tikanga and our strategic direction. I am also human. I don't know everything. When navigating complex financials, I have proactively gone and had sat down with our Chief Financial Officer and asked the questions because I didn't understand. I'm a lifelong seeker of mātauranga, always striving to improve my skills to better serve my people. If entrusted to be a trustee, I will bring focus, humility and determination to help Te Nehenehenui keep moving forward, making decisions that are evidence-based, tikanga-led and centred on whānau. So together that we can turn the vision of Te Kāwau Rukuroa into real outcomes for our people for Tumitumi 2037. Kia tukuna te rākau kia koutou katoa I nāianei e te whānau. Aha ko te aha, ka mahi a te mahi, hei painga mo te iwi. Ko Melissa Gage tōku ingoa. Kia ora.
Oh boy. Kia ora, Melissa. We're burning through it. We've just got our last half of the list to get through now, so hopefully you're all really getting into the vibe here. The other day I told my wife we've got to learn to embrace our mistakes, so she leaned over and hugged me. Here all day, people. All right, I'd like to ask Gannon Ormsby to come up. Homai te paki paki.
Tuatahi, mihi ana ki a koe te tuakana wain. Nau hei tukuna tō tātou nei karakia hei whakatau I a tātou I raru o te whakaaro kotahi. Nō reira, tēnā rā koe, koutou katoa. Tautoko ana ngā mihi, kua mihia ki ngā mate. Tai atu ki te marae o Wairaka. Ki te tangata a Warren McGrath. I mati ai I te rangi nei. Nō reira, takoto moi mai, oki oki. Huri noa ki a tātou I raro te tūni o tō tātou whare, tēnā koutou. Kia ora tātou. Ko Gannon Ormsby taku ingoa, ki te taho tōku matua, ko Waikato Maniapoto, ki te taho tōku whaia, no Te Rarawa, no Te Hokianga, no Te whānau Harris. Well, I'm from the largest whānau within Maniapoto, the Ormsbys. I can probably whakapapa to everyone here in this room and across the Mutu. I come from 50,000 Ormsbys. My tupuna, Robert Ormsby, he served with the British Army, and one of his jobs was to go and engage with whānau in Kāwhia. He got lost in Pirongia, and he was taken back to Rākaunui. And the tupuna there, Te Rāku Takiare, got his daughter to look after him. Her name was Rangihuri here, and she did a good job because she gave him 13 children. So that is, we call that manakitanga back at home, and it's all about relationships. Love listening to a lot of the kōrero today. I'm currently on the Nehenehenui Trust Board. I left New Zealand when I was 18. I went over to the United Kingdom. I had delusions of grandeur. I wanted to go and play rugby league for Wigan or Widnes. I wasn't too worried about who, but you have to be a good player. So I didn't go into that. Ended up joining the British Army. And in the British Army, I served there for 12 and a half years, spent 15 years away. So I understand the meaning of commitment, discipline, and working with others, and the importance of relationships. In my time there, I was able to do a number of tours around different countries and gain a lot of different experiences there. When I came back home, I was 32, going on 33. I didn't have the reo. I didn't know much about my Māori side. But when I was growing up, I always came back to Tikwiri with our grandfather, Jeremiah. And there I felt my foundation, my connection back home to my Maniapoto side. So my life has been a part of a journey. I've got 25 years experience in local and central government, initially working with the Waikato Regional Council, specifically working alongside marae. Actually, my first job was actually to GPS all the marae within the Waikato Regional Council. There's about 280 marae that are in the council, but they needed to ground truth it And what I found is that most of them were school halls, or they were papakainga, or they weren't marae at all. So that was my journey back into my te ao Māori. The other part is, was that a ring? Oh, hell. Okay then. Well, how can I help? Is my institutional understanding around the relationships with central and local government. We've got to get the settings right to ensure that the relationships go back to kura tau, to the marae and hapu. That's my wheelhouse, and that's what I'm able to achieve. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora, Gannon. Just moving on through the list, our next candidate, put your hands together for Leyland Stewart.
Mihi ana te whare o tira ia o tātou tini whanaunga e mātaki mai nā i o koutou kāinga. Tēnā tātou katoa. Kei te tuakana puli tēnā tahi rā koe i ngā kupu whakamoemeti ki te wāhi ngaro. Mā reira pia ka mutu rā te wiriwiri o enei pona e tūne. Hoeno e mihi kau ana. Tangi hia hoki rā o tātou tini mate tērā o i kōrerotia mai nā e koe, Gannon, Warren. Ka mutu rā, ka huri ki te rāwhiti ko Kepa Sterling tērā kua riro. Ki te pō. Nō reira, ko tātou tini mate. Me anara te kōrero, noho pōharana tātou. I te nui o te puna tāngata, kua riro atu ki te pō, tēnei tautonu ni. Hoa tiro, e tika ana kia tangi hia, e rā o tātou ake, kua riro, kua wehe nei a tātou. Rātou rā kia rātou, tātou kia tātou, tēnā tātou. Taunga ke au ki te tū marae, te rai te tū takitahi pēnei nei, mua i te marea. Hoeno e mihi ana kia tātou katoa. E koro e rongo e mihi kau ana ki a koe. Te mōrehu o rātou ma. Ka nui rā te mihi atu ki a koe. E koro, tēnā koe. O tira, kia ora katoa tātou. Taha ki taku pāpā, korongo whakata tēnei, ko tūhoe. He uri no te tai rāwhiti, he uri no mātātua waka. Engari taha ki taku māma e moko puna tēnei nā Jock Joseph, rāua tahi ko Nanny Poppy, hutukawa. Nā reira, ko ōpārure te marae, ko marokopa te marae, o tira ia, e rā pākainga ōku, e mihi kau ana kia tātou, tēnā tātou. Leyland Stewart is my name, grandfather of 2, father of 6, have a cat. Those are important things. Tumua ki tuarua, te wharekura o Maniapoto, and prospective trustee for te Nehenehenui. I comfortably and proudly stand alongside my whanaunga, Jackie, Te Miri and Missy, as we embark on this journey together. But equally humbled to sit alongside all of our whanaunga that we see here. Nō reira tēnā koutou. The question, what might I bring to maintain and continue the momentum, the trajectory of Te Nehenehenui, has to start, of course, with the mihi to the mahi that has been done before us. And then to move into, well, what is it then, Lei? What do you bring? I think that what I bring is further perspective on mātauranga, on education, and the ability for that to unify us. I grew up as part of the 91% that lives outside of our rohe, probably for almost 90% of my life. So that is not lost upon me. However, in that te ahi ka he mea nui tērā, ko te ahi ka ko te mahi kia tau ai, te ahi ka ngā pākainga o te ahi o te kāinga nei, kei reira te tehi mahi ua, kei reira te tehi mahi nunui. e pai ai te hoki mai o tātou uri i no waho mai o te rohe. Ki konei, kia tui ai te hono, kia whiri ai ko te taura tangata. Kei reira te tehi mahi nunui ki au. E pai ai tā tātou kawe atu i ngā mahi e kawe ana i te Nehenehenui ki tua o Raurangi, o Tiraia, ki e rā o ngā pai tawhiti e nohona. And so, stoking the fires back home is crucial. Understanding the tension between resilience and continuity when coupled with the need to pivot, the need to check in to see whether or not that initial line of trajectory is still current. There needs to be mahi done with our kuratau representatives to bring that decision-making mahi and align to their needs with that it's within the whare. There's not one thing that has been mentioned today, whether on camera or in person, that I cannot, that I can't align with in my mahi. I think the tapestry of my experience in mātauranga is that sets the whāriki o te kotahitanga. Hoi no, ko pautua, tēnā tātou.
You know, for some, standing up here 5 minutes can feel like a lifetime, and for others, it's a blink of the eye. So you're all doing really great, and I appreciate the fact that you're all really chopping through it. Our next candidate's coming in from whānau over Mangatoto, Maria Maniapoto. Haramai.
Ka tīmata taku kōrero ki te tukumihi kia o tātou kuini kuariro. Kia te ātai, te āriki nui teim te ātai rani kāhu. Kua rua te kau i nā tau kua wehe atu a ia i te pō. Engari, kāre rawa tōna mana, tōna aroha, tōna wairua rangatira e naro. Ka maumahara tātou ki tāna mahi mō te iwi Māori. He mihi anō ki a tātou āriki nui o nai nei, ko nā waihono i te pō me tōna whare āriki. Ka nui te mihi ki aia e kawe nei i te kaupapa me te mana i waihotia e nā ranatira kua wehe atu. Nō reira, tēnei te mihi, tēnei te aroha, tēnei te whakarangatira. Kia koutou kua tai mai, tēnei rā, tēnei te mihi atu kia koutou, ki nā kai whakawā, kai whakarite, me nā kai tono, tēnei te mihi atu kia koutou katoa. Ko Ngāti Pare te kawa te hapu, ko Ngāti Maniapoto te iwi. Ko Kahepuku te maunga, ko Pūniu te awa, ko Mangatotoa te marae. Ko Maria Pare raukawa, te hui a Maniapoto ahau, e rere ana ahau ki te taho o tōku māma, he uri ahau o nai tūhoi. I'm standing as a kurarere trustee because I believe the next phase of our settlement provides us with a really important opportunity to build on the foundations already laid. It will require continued strong governance, wise decision-making, and a clear focus on the aspirations of our whānau, of our hapu and our marae. Throughout my campaign, I've shared the kaupapa that will guide me at the governor's table, ko waku whakapono e nei, manaakitanga. He aha te mea nui o te ao. Ara, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. Keeping our people at the centre of our decisions. Whakapapa, protecting who we are. Ko wai tātou, ko Maniapoto. Whakatipu, growing what we have inherited through our treaty settlements. Mātauranga, investing in the capability and future of our people. And last of all, for me, for this campaign, ko te mea nui, ko te whānau. Reminding me why I'm doing this. I totally support building long-term intergenerational wealth for our people. We have a responsibility to protect what has been returned in our treaty settlement, to grow our asset base, to invest wisely and create opportunities beyond the original settlement pūtea. But our greatest asset, whānau, is not just our balance sheet. It's our whakapapa, our reo, our tikanga, our marae, our kōrero nehera, and our maniapototanga. So one question I will continue to bring to the governance table is, will this decision leave our people stronger economically, culturally, environmentally, and socially? One area I'm particularly passionate about is education. I believe that is the greatest investment in our future. He whakaaro moko pona hui nei. But I also want to be clear about what I'm promising as a trustee's role in governance and not management. I don't believe that we should make promises during an election that we ourselves don't have the authority to deliver. So as a trustee, our responsibility is to set the strategic direction, protect our assets, oversee risk and performance, make sound, clear decisions, and hold management accountable for delivery. That is management's responsibility, to turn the strategic direction into actions. I don't believe in over-promising and under-delivering. I haven't come today with my big fat CV. Anyway, if you want to know what's my skills, add me on LinkedIn. I've provided some information on the social media if you want to know a little bit more. And if you've still got questions, put it in the box down there. But what I can promise is that I will be prepared to deliver the mahi. I will ask the hard questions. I will exercise my critical thinking skills at every board meeting. I will listen to our people. I will make evidence-based decisions and hold myself and our organisation accountable. I bring experience across governance, education, research, kaupapa Māori programs and community mahi. I'm asking for your support, whānau, to serve as a kurerere trustee 2026 and onwards. Kia ora.
Ka pai. We might have to raise that up another 4 inches. We've got Luke Moss coming in next. Mai te paki paki.
I'm not that tall, but kia ora everybody. I've got a joke to measure up Sam's. It's what did the Māori captain say to his right-hand man to thank him? Ngār mihi. Yeah, that's an original. That's an original there. Take that out. Use that in your hui, whānau. No. Anyways, well, tēnā tātou e te whare tutahi ake mihi ka tika ki ngā tangata kua tai ki te pō. Aku whakaaro ki a Matua John, ki Uncle Ronnie. E rā ngā rangatira e tūtū mai i te puari. O tira ki ngā tangata ki te paukai, ki tātou kuini, te ariki nui ngā wai honu i te pō, ara pai marire. Pai marire ki a tātou katoa, hariru ki a koutou, e tai mai a tinana o tira i runga i te hui topa. Kia ora everybody. Tu roro iti aha, roro iti. They're at TK Pai having their haka practice. I'll be there this afternoon. And ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for the beautiful candidates that we have here today. Ngā te iwi te Waimari, ngā te iwi te whiwhi was spoiled for choice this time around for the elections. Okay, whānau, who am I? Yeah. Good question. On my mum's side, I come from a beautiful lady. Her name is Dolly Rube, and a beautiful man called Puku Barney Anderson. They had a lovely lady called Ginny Bell, or Jean Moss. Then they had my mother, who is Ngā Hoia at the back here. You might know her as Muffy. On my father's side, I come from a guy named Tauru Atutahi and Zina Murahi. They had a guy named Thomas, but for my whole life I thought his name was Jack until we... yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's another story. Whakaaro ki aia e tangi tonu e te whānau nei I takoto ia ki opārure I tēnei wā. Horace Kingi, well, they come down on my nana's side. Horace and Mari Kingi, and then they had Angel, and then they had my father named Larry. So kia ora everybody, my name's Luke, and I'm running out of minutes. But I'm only 30, so I've got plenty of time. 30 whānau, I bring a decade of governance experience. You can read the paper. I've been serving the board since MMTB days and the inception of TNN, and I've been serving our people since the age of 4 when I was forced to stack shelves at my nana's fish and chip shop that she used to own downtown. I've got a master's thesis that I dedicated to Maniapoto rangatahi, and I bring global Indigenous perspectives. Last year I spent 10 months. My mate from Canada called me up, my First Nations mate. He goes, "You want to come live on my couch?" I said, "Yeah, all right then." And then we went powwow hopping. We did all the ceremonies you could think of, the sweat lodges. I got to experience their governance, their education, how they look after their tamariki. And when I went over, I told my whānau, "I'm leaving all of my responsibilities here." And my kuia said to me, "Have you heard of Zoom?" And I went, "Hey, I made you an account. Don't tell me how to use Zoom." So unfortunately, my whānau wouldn't let me leave my people and serve my people. So while I was abroad travelling around, I had the ultimate privilege of still serving our people on the board, serving my marae. At that time, they'll be like, "There's a 600-page board pack." I can't wait. That was my only link back to our people when I was still the chair of our marae. And during that time while I was away, we brought in over $250,000 for our marae renovations and to keep our maraes pumping whānau. So I was away, but geez, I was still in there connected, and I couldn't leave this place alone. I now live with my mum in Te Kuiti. Yeah, we've all been there, eh, whānau? No. We've all been there. Anyways, tumu. It's a 1, 2, 3 for me. The first one is keeping our rangatahi connected. And this is where we already do a few things. Mihi to Aria Huia and Ngā Manu Takiata have been able to establish the advisory committee for our rangatahi, and they're pumping in their own mana. They do their things. And I want to continue that, and I want to make more opportunities for our rangatahi. Even within our managerials, I want to offer up internships for our young ones at the board levels on our different subcommittees, and also maybe even shadowing a guy like Sam or shadowing Tuku and Bully during the summertime when they're taking their leave during... Second one is keeping our whānau connected to wherever you are, because if you have Maniapoto Toto within you, then you're a part of our iwi. The third one is whānau looking after our marae and looking after the people that look after them, giving them everything they can to manaki our people. I want to see our marae thriving. I want to see our pai alive. I want to see laughter within our wharekai. I want to provide tables, mattresses, knives, you name it, whānau, lawnmowers. Yeah. Kia ora, everybody.
Choice one, Luke. Love that rangatahi perspective. Maybe 15 more years you'll have just as good at dad jokes as I am. All right. So we're going to move on. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I can count 2, by the way, if that's all good. 5 candidates left, so we're really getting through it. Our next person coming up is Peter Douglas. Homai te paki.
Ai kia ora no tātou, ko Ngāti ue kaha tēnei e tūake nei, mihi ana ki a koutou. Ko tōku whaia, ko Rāhera Barrett Douglas, ko tōku pāpā, ko Ted Douglas, ko ona māmā, ona whaia, ko Rangi Taukiri Barrett, me hine mōna me te kingi te kanoa. Kia ora everybody, my name's Peter Douglas. I'm the chairman of the Nehenehenui board, and I lead the board. I want to start by saying that about 40 years ago, I came across a report that had been written by the British military in the 1860s about the military might of various iwi. And I read that, and the report said that Waikato had 2,000 warriors, and they were part friendly and part hostile. Raukawa had 1,000, they were part friendly and part hostile. Tūwharetoa had 500 warriors, all friendly. Maniapoto had 2,000, all hostile. Now, as a 25-year-old, I thought that was cool. I got a different idea about what we should be known for these days. I want us to be known for being the best parents and having the strongest families in the world. I want people, when they hear that you're from Maniapoto, that's what they think of. They think, he'll be a good son-in-law, she'll be a good wife, she'll be a good daughter-in-law for my son. Now, those things don't happen by mistake. You have to plan them. And the idea of reports and strategies, they're supposed to change the way you behave. They're supposed to change things. And so in order to do something like that, you have to think hard about what you're going to do with your resources and how you're going to prioritise things, how you're going to work on the education of young people, how you're going to give them the confidence that they can make choices in their lives. I went to university at Waikato after I'd finished school at Hatupetera, and I graduated in 1986. 6 Maoris graduated that year at Waikato University. 6. There'll be thousands, there'll be hundreds this year. One of them was my first cousin, and I married one of the others. So 3 of them were from Ngāti Maniapoto out of those 6. I don't know if half of the hundreds that are going to graduate this year are going to be all ours, but I know a whole lot of them are. Now, the reason I went to university, I was always going to go there because my father taught there. And I think some of my cousins were encouraged by him to go and be the first in their families to go to university as well. Now, we've got to provide that kind of encouragement for those kids that are growing up so that they can go and make those sorts of choices for themselves. Education gives you the opportunity and the strength to make a whole lot of other choices. Work is going to be the main thing for our people in the future. And the factors that make the most difference as to whether or not you're going to get jobs is whether you've got good health, whether you are literate and numerate, whether you've got relevant training, and I mean, it's not much good being a gun blacksmith these days, and where you live. You've got to live where the work is. And that's why only 10% of our people live back in the Rohe Pōtai. All of our families, they haven't moved because they wanted to, they had moved because they had to. So they've gone where they've had to in order to find work. So 10% of our whānau live in the Rohe, 25% live in Hamilton, another 25% live in Auckland, and 20% live in Australia. The last 20%, they're all over the place, all over the country and all over the world. But they're just as important to us. And we need to make sure that they feel welcome and they feel wanted to come home and revel in the communities that are at our marae. So the TNN, it has to use the settlement in the best way that it can. It has to work out ways to invest the money so that it can make more. It has to work out what priorities it's going to fund, and it's got to do those sorts of things in a way that some people may not like, but they've got to do it those ways because we've got to do what we must in order to do the things that we'd like to do. There's a lot of expectations on people. If you're a trustee, where's my share? We have to come up with plans that are so compelling people can understand why they don't need to demand to get their share. Tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora, Peter. Part of my whakapapa is we have a whole bunch of mercenaries, so I don't know where we'd be quoted as if we were in that report. Just looking at our next number on the list, put your hands together for the fabulous Jamie Tāmaki.
Kia ora tātou, nau mai hara mai ki te kura kareti o Ōtorohanga. Ko Jamie Tāmaki tōku inga no te uri o Tahoro o Rua Putanga me kawhia moana hoki. Ko tataraua ko Marie Kepo ko mātua. Yes, I hail from the West Coast. But I wanted to begin by acknowledging every person who has put their name forward for this election. To those who have stood before us, I thank you. And to those who are yet to come, I want to encourage to step forward because our iwi needs more hands than we have raised today. Momentum comes from looking back first. Our forebearers did not build our iwi on convenience. They built it through momentum, standing one generation at a time, turning up to the hui, carrying kaupapa forward from the footsteps of their homes and our marae. Standing or staying when it was far easier to leave. This is the momentum that I pose going forward into this election, is that I hold myself accountable to those standards, that I hold myself accountable to showing up, that I hold myself accountable to being there and listening to our uri. And I hope it is a standard that one day our mokopuna will carry forward so that our momentum built today will last a lifetime. Upward and onward starts with vision and ability to find good information to make good decisions. This matters more than ever as our district and our region face real questions of amalgamation, who governs, who's heard, who speaks, and how we interpret that. I think first about our next generation and what kind of table we will leave for them. Without genuine connection to our iwi and our whānau, our progression views are just graphs and numbers. I've spent over 25 years working with our education system. I am honoured to be serving my whānau as a trustee within a commercial world in a Māori-owned, driven entity. I count myself fortunate to have the opportunity to serve as an elected member in our local government. Things like long-term plans, annual plans, reforms, legislation, consents, economic growth, process and reporting are some of the levers I have learnt to use to pivot our outcomes for our people. My time in these roles have given me a lived experience to learn from. But more than that, they have shown me a way to enable our people to make good decisions for the future. I want to share something I heard from the late Anaru Tamihana. This has built my mantra for making decisions throughout my life. Decisions are a necessity. They are not liked, but they need to be made. And we must always remember that at some point we must be able to go back to the table to kōrero. As we know, Western structures don't always sit easily alongside us as Māori. But it shows me one thing, that we walk in two worlds, side by side, consistently measuring them up to each other. Achieving our goals, understanding the importance of our simple truths, is that our data about our people should never sit in the hands of others. For generations, data about Māori, our health, our outcomes, our housing, our education, and our economic trajectory have been collected, held, and interpreted by systems and institutions outside of our control. Too often, the data has been used to define rather than to serve, shaping narratives for us and our people. So, as a kurorere candidate, I stand here before you to offer some insight into how I will contribute. On health outcomes, I will ask whether the gap is actually closing. On housing, uphold the progress towards safe and secure home for our whānau. For our whare, I'll advocate for resourcing so that they can manage their own outcomes. Building capability and capacity, not holding it at the centre. Our maniapoto lands, I will ensure that they remain like living values within our governance decisions, not just a cultural add-on. Our economic growth, I will use the levers I have learnt through the long-term plans, consents and resourcing and reporting deliberately to pivot outcomes towards our people. And our Māori data sovereignty, I stand strong to keep our information in our own hands for our mokopuna to drive their future. This is what presence looks like for me at the table, active, accountable and contributing in every space I can. I'm truly proud of the journey that has brought me here today. Every role I have held, every challenge I've faced, and every success I have celebrated has helped me grow and taught me to live with integrity. I stand here today not in pursuit of a title, but in pursuit of a purpose to help build and hold space for tomorrow. Tēnā tātou katoa.
Kia ora, Jamie. Next on the list, so put your hands together for Marama Henare Wahu.
Before my time starts, Sam, I have a request if it's okay. I know our people have been sitting for a while. I've been sitting for a while, and I just wonder if we might allow them to just get up and stand and just maybe take a little bit of a breather for 30 seconds. Kei te pai. E tū tātou. Mena hia ia ana koutou.
Kia ora whānau, if you can, we've got 3 more presenters and then we'll have a break and we'll have some lunch and get back to it after that. Whānau.
Melissa, tēnā koe, tango please. Yes. I was with Ross Morgan. Oh. I was here when, oh, kia ora. Yes. Oh, man.
Number 6. Yeah. And Mama there. Yes. Yep.
Fine. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, whānau, if we can all make our way back. Sorry, if, we've got 3 more and then we'll be able to get into some kai and you can take a very lengthy break in between lunch. Ka pai. Alrighty then. Before we kick it off with marama, who'd like to guess why you can't trust stairs? Because they're always up to something. Okay, who might te paki for marama?
Thank you. Tēnā koe. Thank you, Sam. I ngā mana, i ngā reo, i ngā kārangaranga maha, tēnā tātou. Ko mārama henare waho ahau. Mihi ake ahau ki tō tātou kai tūwhiri tō tātou hui tata nei e Sam, kōrua ko Wayne, nāu i tuku whakamoimiti ki tō tātou kaihanga. Tēnā kōrua i tērā. I am a mokopuna of Maniapoto on my mother's side. I am from Mokau. I also whakapapa to Oparure. My people were put into the whenua at Mokau to hold the land for Maniapoto. My name Henare comes from my Ngāti Parau, Ngā Puhi father. Waho comes from my handsome husband who is sitting in the 3rd row, not the 1st row. I asked him to sit in the 1st row. Robin Waho, who affiliates to many marae in Maniapoto, including the closest one, Tāriwanga, over here. His tupuna is on the maunga over there in the Urupa. I have lived within the rohe of Maniapoto for almost half of my lifetime. But like many of our whānau, I've lived a significant time outside our rohe. And like many of our whānau, my whānau didn't want to leave home either, but we had to. Question that we were asked was a very long one. I'm not going to reread it because it'll take me 20 seconds of my time. Thank you, Sam. So I shortened it. How will I contribute to the work done and the work to be done? That's how I shortened the question, and that's what I believe most people want to know, particularly those who don't know me. Eh? First of all, I will contribute by being a champion for all descendants of Ngāti Maniapoto to be served by the Trust. To this end, there are 3 key areas that I believe we must work on urgently. 1, our trustees as a collective. 2, our governance structure. 3, our communication. There are many others e te whānau, but I only got 5 minutes today. The first one I'm going to talk about today is we must strengthen the capability of our trustees. Many of our trustees have been put into the governance space without the skills, the knowledge, the training, or the support that they need to do a good job. I've seen this in many governance spaces that I have worked in, and I still see it. Don't get me wrong, koe pāpauri e te iwi. I'm not criticising our whānau who on aroha run our marae with the smell of an oily rag. This is not a criticism, okay? But know this, stepping into a role as a trustee of a multi-million-dollar post-settlement governance entity is a very different space. So we need to provide the support and the training and the mentoring for our whānau who collectively have the responsibility for that organisation and the assets it holds. We need to provide that for our trustees. We need them to be strong, we need them to be confident, we need them to know what they're supposed to be doing. And if you've sat in our governance boards, our Māori governance boards, you will see that sometimes we don't. Kei te tika ahau, kei te mōhi o koutou. So I will advocate for mandatory, and I know we don't like mandatory, but anyway, I will advocate, don't forget I got 13 other trustees I've got to work with. Advocate for mandatory training for all existing trustees of TNN, of marae and of papakainga. And I will also encourage those of you who have not voted to think very carefully about who you vote for. Very carefully. Was that a bell? Okay. So my last word is think carefully, think thoughtfully, because the future of your mokopuna and your future are in these hands. Ne? Are you willing to put that into these hands? Koera. Ngā mihi.
Ka wai. Next one to come up is mihi rā for Tisterang.
Kia ora, Peter, for giving us a historical lesson from 1860 to 1864. Our population was 2,000 here in Te Rohi Pōtai. We had access to 3.6 million acres of land. We were sovereign within the states, as Moana Jackson would say. We were the only iwi in Maniapoto that in actual fact had an aukate line, and the Crown required our permission to come through. We were then also hosting to Waikato, Raukawa, Apakura, and we had Tāwhia with us for 24 years. We had Te Kōti with us for 21 years. We should stand proud in 26 to the history that is ours. Kia ora, I didn't actually intend to actually open like that, but kia ora. Ko mihi rā whiti ahau.
Aroha mai. And I'm going to keep this simple. This time last year, I could not walk. This time last year, I was recovering from surgery. This time last year, I was 25 kilometres, kilometres? I was 25 kilos heavier than I am. And what each and every one of you here, a fantastic row of people with extraordinary skill bases, is that I knew that I had to make the change. And in coming home, that was the best change I've ever made in my life. And then in terms of rebels, there's another rebel in the room, and that's Dr. Ronga Wetere. I picked him up at 8:30. Can you imagine how hot it was in that car as we were driving here? And we were arguing about things. But we continue to debate what's important to us, and that's the mana to who we are as a people. And what I bring to the table for you is I bring 50 years of political activism. I chose not to be an academic. I chose not to be a lawyer. I chose not to be an accountant. I chose to actually resist every Pākehā employer that came within my pathway. And today I stand with all of that experience. It's extraordinary. And I listen to the emphasis on education, health, our people, our mokopuna. I'm 72. I turned 72 on July the 31st. My mother's 95. When my beautiful cousin Gannon Ormsby talks about being in Ormsby, my father's name is Hetet Taylor Turner Sarank. My mother is a Hughes Ormsby Komanga Roar. We live and breathe within our family, Waikato Apakura Maniapoto. The emphasis for me today is Maniapoto. I recognise what the current government, what the current trustees have done. I recognise the sacrifice they've made, but I think we can improve upon that, people. I want your vote. We need to vote for political change as well as social change. We need our people to know who the trustees are. Trustees lead us into the future. I've had 30 years of engagement since 2006 in the Waitangi Tribunal inquiry. We are now bearing those claimants. A young man said to me about 15 years ago that the claimants are just unemployed beneficiaries or pensioners, and he was absolutely right, and that was Rungo's son. But he stood by his father. And I also want to acknowledge at this moment in time, I was brought up by my father's people, Ngāti Rora. Throughout that period in time when my uncle, my father's brother, Tifa Bell, was chair of the Maniapoto Trust Board, I would fight him every opportunity because it wasn't about the man, it was about the message. So my message at this moment in time, people, is keep your health well, kia kaha, kia mai, kia mau. We are Maniapoto and proudly so rebellious. Kia ora.
Beautiful kōrero whaia. And we're getting down to our last candidate for their 5-minute kofo. I'd like to get a round of applause for Ōtorohanga Wetere.
Ngā mana i ngā reo, ngā kārangaranga maha, ngā puraroi mata, ngā mana tangata. E tau nei, kia ora mai koutou katoa. Mihi atu ki te ariki nui, ngā wahona i te pō, pai marere ke rātou. You know, it's great to be home. I've been 20 years in Canada helping Indigenous people there. I thought I was coming home in a little box to Maniaroa. I had a little box. But you know, here I am, I'm still here. I'm still here. You know, it's great to see you all. It's great to think that we all have different ideas. But you know, as Maniapoto, we can pull it all together and recapture where we should be. Who the hell called us Nehenehenui? That's only part of Maniapoto. Let's get it right. We did a lot of debate. We need to reclaim Maniapoto tangata. And we can do that. 10 years ago or more, I advocated a rohe potai settlement, quantum settlement for the whole of Te rohe potai. That was ignored. I was disgusted. That's one of the reasons why I left New Zealand and went to Canada, because the people over there said, "Ronga, will you come and help us?" I said, "Okay." You know, one of the things that I did in New Zealand, and Peter is right, 90% of our people live outside the rohe. And so, when I decided, after urging by my father, that I needed to do something about Waikeria, I needed to do something about the pohara situation of Maori, he told me, "Rongo, I want you to use this. I want you to use your head, not your back." Like he was a gun shearer, like many of our people were gun shearers. But my father refused to teach me how to use the handpiece. He said, "Rongo, I want you to use this." Well, that's what I did. I left school with no educational qualifications, but I remember the old man saying, "You've got to use this." And that's what I did. And when the time came to really make a difference and to do something about all our people who are locked up in Waikeria, 1980s, that's 45 years ago. That's when I decided to take a claim to try and teach our people something, to set up a school. And that's how the Aotearoa Institute was set up. And I took a claim to the Crown, against the Crown, for education for our people. People thought I was crazy. The trust board that I had thought, "Ronga, you can't do this," so I did it on my own. You know, some things you have to do on your own. So I lodged a claim in my name, by myself, paid for it myself. And as a result of that, we got 160 million. The biggest white claim for education that created 3 wānanga. The next thing was I had to get campuses all over New Zealand and develop the opportunity to educate our people. And one of the 1% of our people were at tertiary education in New Zealand. How the hell could we make progress on that? Is that the bell? I'm sorry, I don't want to extend my time. Kia ora tātou.
Ka pai. That brings us to an end for our candidates getting their 5 minutes to speak to you all. I'd just like to put out a couple of just reminders. The Kuratau election is the by-election for Whare Hoa Uru ki Uta. So make sure that if you're from that primary whare and you get an opportunity that you can log your votes. You've got till the 7th of September. For the Kurarere, which is our general seats for Te Nehenehenui. They will also close on the same date, so if you want to talk more about it, Isaiah's down the back. He's happy to help you work through the sheets if you've got any questions. Other than that, we're going to have some lunch. We're going to take 30 minutes as of now, and then we'll try to get back and kickstart a 12:45 to then begin the next and last part of it, which is some questions. While you're milling around, feel free to talk to your candidates. Grab a piece of paper and write your partai down. Charmaine is down there with Midori. If you've got any partai you want to add to the box, throw it in there, because we're going to come back and then we'll be asking those partai of our candidates. So that's the next part of the section. We'll be asking your preloaded questions to the candidates, giving them all a chance to explain. Kia ora whānau, we'll be back in about 35 minutes. Kia ora everyone, we've got about another 6 minutes. Kia ora everyone. Hello, hello. Yeah, they should learn how to... That's all right. Yeah, but leave them here. Hello. Come on. Hello, hello. Come on, whānau. Kia ora, everybody. We've got about 3 or 4 more minutes. So if you want to grab your extra lunchbox, your extra crispy your cheese and crackers, and come on back and take a seat. We're going to kick off the live stream. And if I can get all of our kura rere and our kura tau reps to make yourself readily available up here in any chair of your choice. Casey, time to ring that bell. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble. All right, let's go.
Down the
So you'll be happy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, tēnā koutou te whānau, ngā rauranga tira mā. I'm going to just ask you all to see how well your cognitive senses are going. So if you can take your right hand and you can put it up. Then I want you to put it on your left shoulder. And then I want you to put it on your chin. I said your chin. Okay, there we go. Now you should all be wide awake. What we're going to do next is a little bit of a freestyling for our candidates. So we've got questions from the box. I've gone and been given these questions to now ask our candidates. These have come from the floor. Each person will get a minute to give their best kōrero they can. Yeah, cool. All right, so and from that we're going to give everyone a chance to really get their kōrero out. Huia, you need to be up here. Ka pai. We've got a seat here and everything. Ka pai. Right, Mr. Koroe, let's... It bodes well as a CEO when I'm asking them to grab their seats and take it, they're listening. So I'm like, yeah, that could be a good trustee. So before we kick off, I'm just going to take the opportunity to talk about some aspects. So when they're answering these questions, they're speaking from their perspective. This is for our whānau who have provided them. And just a little bit of context, you would have seen we released our annual report over this weekend, and you would have seen in there's a lot of information, but the key parts in there is that Te Nehenehenui has continued to grow and become more and more, well, to be fair, we've done some pretty amazing things. Over 3,000 grants have gone out to our people, $1.4 million in distributions last year. We continue to grow. I remember when we first came in, we did about 330,000. Now we're up to about 1.38 in terms of money going out to our communities. That's always broken down between the 5 components of our strategy. We've posted a $12.5 million increase over our assets. And what we've seen is the ability to get engaged and influence with our people. We've picked up the ability to get into our communities. We've paid out all of our grants to our maraes. And we see growth, protection and impact as a big one, including the way we've submitted and supported a lot of our consenting requirements, as well as the bill changes, environmental changes. I'm putting all this out there for context because this whānau here, I'm sure as soon as that annual report dropped, or after it, going through it with a fine-tooth comb, ensuring that they knew where everything was landed. So feel free to include that in your answers as you come back to us. We're going to do a 1 minute, you get 1 minute to get it. You're going to get the old, this is the new bell sound. So you just give it heaps. Right. When you hear that one, it means like, psh, you're off. And that way it'll prevent me from offering you many more jokes. But on the side of jokes, what sound does a grape make when you stand on it? Nothing. It lets out a little wine. Right. Okay. So whānau, we've got microphones here. I'll be providing them from one side, and then the mic has to make its way to this side, and then when it gets to this side, it needs to make its way all the way back to that side as we go through the questions. And then at the third question I'm going to ask, I'm going to start it in the middle, and we're going to go left and then right. That way everyone feels like they get to answer first, second, and last, however it goes. All right, so are we ready for this? Let's brace for impact. To our potential kura tau as well as our kura rere candidates, the first question that we have is if you're successful to serve as a trustee on Te Nehenehenui, what value do you place on tikanga-led decision-making and collective responsibilities to make the best decisions for all of us? Ka pai, do we need to hear that question again? If successful to serve as a trustee on Te Nehenehenui, what value do you place on tikanga-led decision-making and collective responsibility to make the best decisions for all of us? And right.
That's just a common sense question. Kia kaha.
I place extremely high value on tikanga-led decision-making and collective responsibility. The knowledge and collective knowledge of our tupuna and our tupuna stories have been held and preserved for the many, many generations for a reason, and the reason is to give us an insight on how best to make decisions to work and live in this world that we live in and alongside everybody else. So utilising tikanga-led decisions will definitely help us. I support that, to make the best decisions for all of us. And collective responsibility, well, each and every one of us here in this room and not in this room, if you're a mena he toto mania poto tāu, tō tinana, then you have a collective responsibility to make the best decisions for all of us too. Tēnā koutou.
Kia ora. I sit at the moment in a working group called the Tukunui Whenua Working Group. Within that is we have a responsibility to honour what took place back in time in 1928 when 10,000 hectares of land was taken by the Crown under the Public Works Act. And with that comes a extended responsibility in terms of the relationship that we hold within the ministries. So in terms of tikanga and collective responsibility, it comes back to a consensus around the table and the ability to, in actual fact, take what is leading the agitator, which is the Crown, and making sure that we do not have a future in being anything else but maniapoto and not beneficiaries to the Crown. For me, that's collective responsibility. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Tikanga-led decisions, I think for me it's around understanding when we lead with tikanga and when we lead with constructs of obligation. So understanding when we're leading with tikanga decisions, we're holding ourselves to our mana motuhake so that we don't fall into the realm of a grey area where we neither know what mantra we're following. So knowing when we're doing tikanga obligation, we're strong in our mana motuhake, and when we're doing the other obligation, we follow the framework. So collectively, we have a platform that we can all work off. Kia ora.
Tēnā tātou. I think on the point around tikanga-led decision-making, sometimes phrases like that can be bandied around without the true understanding of what that is, what those are, and how exactly, where they come from and how exactly you implement them. And so from the kiaune, this is the demonstration of mātauranga o ngā tupuna. And probably we ought to, when talking about tikanga, consider the kawa that those tikanga uphold. Te reo, and using those as tools to unpack those tikanga to inform our decision makings is absolutely in my wheelhouse, and so of extreme value to our tool set, to our whāriki, to the takapau of the mahi. In terms of collective responsibility, kei reira anō e noho ana I roto I a tātou tikanga. They tikanga tikanga are embodied by the people. uphold and to maintain the relationship with the kawa, and that is a ways of working for us.
Kia ora tātou. Tikanga, koera te tuapapa really. I'm a pā baby, raised in the pā, and it gives me a solid foundation to move forward in that. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora koutou. When it comes to tikanga-led decisions for me, it's about listening to our people, taking that information with us, and when it comes to the decision-making table, to make sure that it reflects what our people want. So it's actually been communicative to our whānau, taking that information and translating it in a tikanga-led way. I also do that with my other hats that I hold here in the rohe, and I want to continue that when and if I get the privilege of being able to be a trustee around the table. Kia ora.
Kia ora. What value do I place on tikanga-led decision-making and collective decision-making responsibilities? That's actually two questions, so I'll take the first. As trustees, we have to operate within the legal framework as a governance board, according to the legislation, the Maniapoto Settlements Act. On the other hand, we equally are responsible to operate within our tikanga-led space according to our LORE. Raising platforms for te reo o ngā hapu, I'm passionate about, and also kia piki ake te taumata o ngā mana motuhake o ngā hapu.
Kia ora everybody. When I think of collective responsibility, I think of the great saying, kia mau ki tērā, kia mau ki te kāo māro. You know, it's not one flight, it's not one bird that flies, but it's all of us together. And when it comes to the board, you have to be that front bird that takes the brunt to support the collective of us all. And it's hard to say, I put high importance into tikanga-led decisions because I believe every decision I make is a tikanga-led one, and I follow our uara. Yeah, that's a tricky question when you live in a tikanga, biased world where if we don't have that involved, we might as well be working for a private entity or, a non-Māori entity. Tikanga has to be a part of every decision we make. Even shoes without shoelaces so I can take them off quickly when I go into the marae. Kia ora whānau.
Well, pai ana te pātai, but we've got to be very clear to understand the difference between tikanga tukuiho and tikanga tere tere. Yeah? So in te ao Māori nei is kawa, tikanga. The iwi, the hapu, the whānau, the marae. Tukuiho. Okay? Tikanga tere tere doesn't derive from kawa. Comes from a Westminster system. Comes from a legislative outcome, an act. And you have legal and fiduciary responsibilities. However, tikanga is the way we practice our relationships and how we make decisions. I raro te teina me te tuakana. Yeah? Which is about a circle of respect. Understand. I might not agree with you. Okay, but I understand what you're saying. And vice versa. This is where we have to be very clear. Tikanga tukuiho, tikanga tere tere.
Tēnā tātou, mihi ake ki te kai pātai I tō pātai. Tuatahi ake ka whakautua e au te mea te wahanga tuarua. In terms of collective responsibility, I'm standing because it's all about collective responsibility for me. I'm not here for me. I'm here for my whānau, my hapu, our iwi.
And one of the things that I believe our governance structure, our trust needs to ensure is that it is representative of all maniapoto, because the Maniapoto Settlements Claims Act binds all maniapoto. Koera taku whakautua I te wāhanga tuarua, te wāhanga tuatahi, mo te tikanga, me mōhio, me mārama, me mātau. So, and I say this with respect, there are those who know about tikanga, and there are those of us who might have a little bit of knowledge about tikanga, and there are those of us who don't know what tikanga are, and I'm not judging any of those groups of people. But he mea nui kia hau tō tātou tikanga, tō tātou te kawa o ngā mātou, o ngā ātua Māori, ne? He mea nui tērā taku taha Māori. So, he mea nui, engari, me mōhio. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora tātou. Yes, from the whare point of view, I'm absolutely behind tikanga lead governance, as I spoke about in my 5-minute presentation. And e ai ki te kōrero te pūoho kātene at Te Amarangi Summit, that, tikanga allows us to put our people in the centre of things in our decision making, and also keeping our future generations always in mind. But there is sort of somewhat of a disjoint that my decision making at the governance level of the Nehenehenui needs to be supported from the whare, and from the whare back to through the whare. So there's a little bit of a disjoint, I find, but yeah, it's all about the consensus making decision making in the end for me. Thank you.
Thank you. You have to find a balance between what your legal responsibilities are and tikanga. It's not that hard to do that, but the important thing is there's nowhere to hide. So you have to do those things if you're going to be working in these kinds of organisations. I've been in other organisations where the tikanga decision-making process is wheeled out by people who didn't get their way. So we must make sure that that's not what happens.
Kia ora. I just want to acknowledge Gannon's kōrero about tikanga from Kawa, and I'm not really going to talk about that because I think that's in a particular domain, I guess, and the people that I saw growing up who I would have said were the holders of tikanga, that ilk is sort of not really here anymore. And so I think there's something there about how we grow that, build that. For the board, I think the tikanga leader, I do place significant value in it, that it is about the whare, and that they get to be able to exercise their tikanga in relation to decisions that affect them. Collective responsibility, I think we need more collective accountability. I think sometimes we can be a bit too, we say it's tikanga to be nice and let things go under the carpet instead of maybe being tika into the tikanga. So, and it's hard because we actually are all quite individual these days. We all go back to our own homes, have our own kai, and sleep in our own beds, and we don't live collectively really anymore. But
he pātai pai tēnā. The entire settlement was tikanga led. It was led by our kaumātua of the time. And the one thing that we've always looked to as part of our settlement is the kawinata and our uara from our tūpuna that set the kawinata and wrote it in 6-7 days in 1903. So in every decision we make, and I'm just trying to reflect where we may not have
it always is about our people first. Collective responsibility, the structure of what is now Te Nehenehenui and what was Maniapoto Māori Trust Board was also set by our tūpuna of the day in the 1980s. You've seen Dan's video. And the idea of that structure was to ensure that the whole of Maniapoto had a voice. So I do think that we're set up to enable that, but we will keep ourselves honest by your feedback, your constructive feedback ideally. And ngā mihi.
Kia ora. I think knowing and understanding tikanga is important before you get to the table, or else how can you make tikanga-led decisions if you don't understand what tikanga is? So if you have grown up in a household which is multi-generational, if you have grown up with grandparents, if you have been involved in your marae, then it is inevitable that you'll have some knowledge of tikanga. As Bella said, the settlement was led by kaumātua, and in a lot of policy documents, contracts, job descriptions, the tikanga of Te Nehenehenui has been set, and that's te tika, te pono me te aroha. Those are the tikanga that Te Nehenehenui follow. In terms of collective decision making, and I bet you there'll be some board members sitting here laughing when I say this, but at the board table we have really tough debates. We don't always agree, and we have hard debates. But the beautiful thing is, at the end, we can all give each other a hug and be nice to each other. So I think we make collective decisions around consensus. All of our decisions are made by consensus. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. Tērā te tikanga o ngā mātua tūpuna tuku iho, tērā te ture o te kāwanatanga me piri ai tātou ki tēnā. And I think that sometimes it depends what you want to achieve. And I take what Koro said about taking a practical approach to it. And this is something I got taught by the ones that taught me, that tikanga has got to be a living thing. I hear what they think, and I think it sounds like it's sorted in the trust board. The main thing is, once a decision is made, ka whakai te katoa. Kia kite ai te reka o te noho tahitanga te teina me te tuakanui I raro I te whakaaro kotahi. I was told that was also important as well. But I think we would be guided by our broader kaupapa and what the positive effect is on ourselves, but ngauri whakaheke and the future of our young people. But ai, te pono, te ture, te aroha.
Ka pai. Thank you very much. Hopefully these answers are helping our whānau who are going to watch this later, watching it now, really whittle down on where they feel they sit in this kaupapa. The next question that's coming up is a little bit more kind of expansive and challenging in the sense that it's asking how will you represent the iwi as a general rep for the kurerere. And I've given some stats here. 51% are rangatahi between the age of 35 and down in terms of age. We have 36% that sit between the age of 36 and 64. And then we have 13% that sit in our kaumātua phase of 65 and older. Acknowledging that the iwi in the census last year was 56,853 in terms of people that affiliate to Maniapoto, 33,146 sitting on the tribal register as of today. With all of this acknowledged, and your responsibility to represent your iwi, how will you do this, and where do you see Maniapoto then needing to go by 2037? So the real question is, how will you represent the entire iwi, acknowledging that 100% of the land is in the rohe, 90% of its whānau are outside the rohe, and where do you see us by 2037? We're going to give you 2 minutes for this question. And Chris gets to start.
Oh, yeah, that's a big question. Well, the future belongs to the rangatahi. because they're going to have a tough lot of it. What you'll see happening around the world is going to land on them, thanks to us. So where we need to be is empowering them. And our decisions should always put them to the forefront. I'm quite set about that, because that's what our job is to do, look after our kaumātua, but make the world a better place. I think those are parameters that can help guide what our priorities are. But I definitely see things like health and well-being, education, whatever that education may be, redesigning the environment in which we operate, and that's dealing with the outside world. We need to be more, not forceful, but we need to shape that world for ourselves. Koina tēnā.
Kia ora.
I'm sure there was 5 questions in one question. I think in order to serve the iwi, you have to be amongst the iwi. So you have to be at events, you have to go to iwi-related kaupapa, whether that be paukai or huia iwi or tangi. You need to go to those so you can see people, you can hear people, and you can listen to what they're wanting. And inevitably, people are going to corner you and go, "Hey, you're on the board. Can we talk about this?" So that does happen. So I think tuatahi, people have to be amongst the iwi and be going to iwi kaupapa, listening, and then using your role as a trustee to bring that kōrero back to the board and say, "Hey, what are we doing about that?" So that would be the first thing. I think if we look at the different age groups, I'm a little bit biased, but I think education is quite an important connector, whether it's educating people about home renovations, whether it's educating people about tertiary training, whether it's educating people about how to look after taonga, I think, or financial literacy or governance. I think education is a massive connector. I think when I first started on this board, my partner and I, we were looking after our parents, so making sure that kaumātua have a voice and are looked after, and we've tried to do that through kaumātua insurance, and that's not just me, that's the whole board. So I think, yeah, being amongst people, I think education is a connector and as an enabler, and making sure that we take kōrero that we hear back to the table from all the different groups that we hear from. Kia ora.
I can't remember the question, but hopefully I'll answer it. The key thing is we don't have enough resources to cater for all our population. So we need to be quite strategic in what we do and ensuring that we are meeting the aspirations of our people today and our future generations, and we have enough resources to do that. What's key is our whānau outside of the rohe, in my read, having been a kōrero a few times, is they want to be strong in their identity and they want to connect to themselves as maniapoto, and they want to know who they are. There's a lot of our whānau that still don't. So we just need to ensure that those programs are there to enable them to connect. In terms of economic prosperity, I've had the benefit as being educated and funded by a treaty settlement, Waikato Tainui, which has enabled me to stand on my own 2 feet and provide for my own whānau. That's what I wish for our whānau, no matter where they are in the world. And beyond that is also we live stream. Why are we live streaming? Because we need to connect to as many people as we can so they know what we're up to. And, you know, sometimes our kōrero and our hoi can be a bit hard to hear, but, you know, they just need to know that we are trying to work as hard as we can and that we are having robust conversations and we're holding each other accountable. Beyond that, within rohe, I think what's also important, within rohe, most of our people live in Hamilton and Auckland, by the way, whānau, if you look at the stats, is just ensuring that the housing is available, they are healthy, and they are educated. And we have programs now, especially our captured audience within the rohe, te kirikiri. We look forward to having that completed. Health, te tiratu. We are on the Iwi Māori Partnership Board. We have the whānau order contract. All of those have been put in place to reach as many of our whānau north as we can. So our thinking has been instrumental around reaching our people.
Kia ora. My husband and I have 7 children ranging in age from 35 to 19, so I just need a cooked tea and I'll have a whole lot of rangatahi around the table. But I guess, so personally, I understand where young people are, and they're all different in their different stages of their life. But I support what Rachel said in terms of being out and being visible and kaupapa, absolutely. But I think it's really important that the board has mechanisms that are feeding directly into the board. It's one thing for us to be able to go out and, I was here at this hui and I heard this and that, but we need the real info coming into the board. So whether that's through the rangatahi group that I've heard about that stood up, sorry, I don't know the name, that Ariahui is part of, whether it's something like with Waikato Tainui, we have Tauta Here, so that people, wherever they are, that are maniapoto, are able to meet for themselves, and you can reach them there, as well as them being connected to what's going on here. I also think it's really important that generally for everybody that, that whole beneficiary mindset thing, and that comes from, the Pākehā trust law, you've got trustees and beneficiaries, that we should just be whānau members, and to not think that the board is providing benefits all of the time. It's about people being able to move on and up with their lives with the programs, the support, or the connections that the board's able to provide.
Kia ora. I think, the numbers count for themselves, Sam. They sound a bit light. I think the number of our people that are under 35 is closer to 60%, not 35. So most of our people are under 35. So we've got to keep that in mind in all the decisions that we make. If you get elected in this role, please don't think that anybody that does just runs off and does what they like. They're expecting to be held accountable, and we hold each other accountable, and we remind each other every meeting. I've been chairing a meeting where I'm reminded over and over what my responsibilities are, and I do that to my colleagues as well. So I don't think you should worry about whether or not people are going to take those responsibilities seriously or not. They will.
It's a little bit outside of me, this being kuratou, but I think knowing whence your mandate has come from and earning that mandate when you're in that spot all the time. Maniapoto are always very strategic in their thinking and setting priorities that we can take back to our whare and then bringing them back to the table.
Tēnā anō tātou, tēnā koe tēnei pātai. First of all, I just want to begin my answer by saying I support what Jackie said. Thank you, Jackie. In terms of the communication and maintaining links with all of our different age groups, sizes and permutations of our people. I stood up this afternoon and said that I would be a champion for ensuring that Te Nehenehenui structure represents all of Maniapoto. So that is one answer to your question, whatever that might look like. And if there is a thought that, I know some of our people are not represented because my whānau from Mōkau are not, even although our marae is one of the marae of Maniapoto. Don't need to go into the details e te whānau. I'll tell you later if you want to ask me about it. But kei te pono tērā. The other thing I want to say is my household is a representative of all of those age groups. I have a 17-year-old daughter who was at home this morning, didn't want to come to the meeting, but wished me good luck. Gave me a kiss, said, love you, mama, good luck. My mum, who is in her 80s, he kaumātua ia, she was here earlier, but she's a bit tired now, so she's gone home. And Takutane and I, we pakeke still. We're not kaumātua yet, eh dear, we don't qualify for the kaumātua grant in Maniapoto, although he does in Waikato. But anyway, so in all the ways that I can, I will, and in all the ways that I can't, I will ask the questions and find the people to help me to find the answers. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora tātou. I've got 8 children. My oldest is probably 38 and my youngest is 13. Short end of it is I've learnt by observing previous maniapoto leaders and how they conduct themselves when they're representing maniapoto. So, Uncle Tifa, Uncle John, Uncle Bob, all these they're very solid in the way that they represent. Yeah, they understand the importance of relationships with ourselves and with others. Yeah, they were very considered in how they engaged. So they're my tauira. So I'll follow that example. In regards to what I see by 2037, as I see a smaller trustee, a more strategic, smaller centre, but a more empowered kuratou in our hapu, in our marae, engaging, participating in decision-making, in their kaitiakitanga, in the rangatiratanga in place. That's what I want to say. That's why I'm here to do that job, to set the foundation, to ensure that we have a strong foundation so our mokopuna can be very clear in their takiwa what they want to see. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora everybody. If 65% of our iwi is under 35, we should have some of them at the table. Yeah. You know what to do. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Just joking. I don't talk with a kōrero of, if you really want to be a trustee that speaks on behalf of all, then you must be a kānohi kitia for your people. You want people that can make decisions at the table and can mow the lawns. So I think that's a big part of being a trustee. The second thing I'll do is I'd stand up or continue to support our advisory groups that we have and stand up the ones in Hamilton and Auckland to make sure no matter where your parents dragged you or your grandparents dragged you, that you have a connection back to your people. And the other thing I would give all of our whānau is identity of who they are and where their tupuna came from. Once you have that, you can go into the world with your sword and shield. It was your maniapototanga, and you can conquer anything in front of you. So that's what I would do. Kia ora.
Hi, kia ora. I te rangatahi, nau mai hara mai ki te tēpū. As soon as you graduate with your T-TEL degree. How will I serve our iwi? I will do my due diligence. I will keep my eye on the ball. I will keep focused on our rautaki, te kawe maro. I will be guided by our kawhenata. That's how I will serve our people, our iwi. But more importantly, I've got to serve my own whānau first. They're my backbone, my tuara, my whakapapa, and from there, serve our hapu. I think within those three cohort, we still carry a lot of intergenerational trauma, and my hope is that we support the generation coming through, not to carry that trauma. And so we need to find ways also to help whānau deal with some of that trauma that we're still currently experiencing. Whānau, we saw some of this trauma played out yesterday, and we're seeing it played out over Facebook medias and all these kind of things. So I think those are issues that stem from our hapu grievances, that for some of us, and as has been mentioned, there's not enough pūtea in the settlement to support all of our hapu aspirations. I hope we don't end up having to fight over who gets what, but we've got to keep in mind that this is a maniapoto settlement. It is an iwi settlement. Ai, kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. I'm a mum of two under 30-year-olds. One's 32, one's 29. She's holding on. But they are at the forefront of my whakaaro when it comes to trying to engage. We've got all these mediums now that we're able to engage with our young people to make them feel connected. We used to be that whānau. I moved to Perth 25 years ago for other opportunities, and I know what it's like to be disconnected and feeling like I couldn't have a voice because my feet weren't on this whenua. 6 years ago I came home, my feet were on the whenua, and that's when I put my money where my mouth was. But we also have to be korowai aroha to our rangatahi as well, because we need to nurture them. Because if we don't nurture them and help them get the skills that they need, they're going to wait till we die and then come and do it anyway. So if we can do it in a way where we can manaki them and guide them along the way. So with all our mediums, we've got our young rangatahi over here that is awesome, that's triggering others, and like te ngā manu takiata, I'm probably a bit cringy to my children, but I'm trying to show people by collaborating with Jamie and Natasha Willison. We're trying to show people that anybody can sit here and be a prospective trustee. Anyone can do it. We want you to do it. So just making those connections and making sure that when we get our rangatahi up here, we protect them as well, not throw them to the wolves where they get chewed up and spat out. We need to make sure we look after our rangatahi. So that's one thing that I would like to do, is be more succession focused, because we're not here for a long time. We're here for a short time, and we need to make sure it's worthwhile. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. I resonate with many people down here. One of my key things is I like Gannon's kōrero about, and I've heard it several times throughout the day, around making sure that our whare are built up even more so that they can do the mahi that they need to do in the rohe and get things done from that perspective. All of my children, my mokopuna, are all under 35 too, so I have investment in this for my mokopuna. So kia ora tātou.
Ai, tēnā tātou. I'll start with the last part of the question, because that's the part that I remembered the most. Wow. It came out 10 minutes ago. 2037, where do I see us in 2037? I see us better connected, better equipped, further grounded in our mātauranga, and the whare enabled even more. How? By scaling up the programs that work, the programs that reach, the programs that have the most positive impact, like kuratahi, like the kaumātua health insurance. How? By maintaining kanohi kitea. I'm not at every hui. I don't go to all the paukai, every kaupapa that's happening on every marae, but the ones that I do go to, wherever I pop up, it's meaningful. And connections happen in many modes these days. And so I will continue the mahi that I do with 130 students every day at Te Wharekura Maniapoto, because the succession threat is real. Ka ngaro ana tātou, te tokoiti e mohona ki tō tātou reo, e manaki nai ngā tātou tikanga. I've got spots for 130 kids. Keep sending me your kids. I've got a lot of work to do, and there's heaps of it. Aotepo. But that lot of 130, and that little house, that oparure, kei reira te tehi puna o te whakarau ora i a tātou. So that our uri, when we talk about connections, when we talk about understanding, and we talk about enablement of exploring tuakiritanga, at least we'll have a little bit more down here to help fill the seats in noho nei tātou. So I'll continue on with that mahi. The advocacy for education, for mātauranga maniapoto, mātauranga rereahu, mātauranga o te kāinga nei. We need to pipeline that stuff into real mahi, because it's valid and it's legitimate. It's not this nice tack-on token side piece. My last one, innovate and invest in innovation.
Kia ora tātou.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different. I am a statistic. I was a young Māori mum, came here to this kura, so I know what it's like to be in the majority of that statistic at the bottom. I have 4 tamariki, and they do also fall into that bigger end of our economic percentage. And I think about my mokopuna, so I have 1 mokopuna, and I think how the world will look for her when I'm gone. Because like many have said, we're not here by design to stay forever. We're only here for a short time. But what we need to do, and I'll go back to my base around education, it's a touchstone for our people to have choices. It's not a legal thing that we have to go to school, but if we educate our kids and our people to come home and find those educating points to touchstone to return home, I think it's a superpower. I think about where the board might be in 2037. Hopefully, making their own decisions, and like Annan said, a smaller construct. I think we have enough in our own kete, in our own homes, in our own marae, to broker and to design our outcomes for us. We are clever. This whare, quite ironically, has housed, I had 22 years here in this whare before I went to Te Wharekura o Maniapoto. What it has taught me, though, is that home is at the footstool of all that we believe in, and we must hold on to that. And so putting our mokopuna into our kohanga, into our kura kaupapa, into our wharekura, are just the first steps we must really look at whānau. So kia ora.
Kia ora. I was a kid of the 1950s. So as a kid of the 60s and 70s and 80s, we're the ones who are driving the revolution that you speak of today. And, you know, it's just amazing to hear you being so positive about who you are and where you want to see your children. But one of the tragedies of being an extremely privileged generation of rangatahi, and I'm speaking of myself, is that the revolutions that we founded in the 1970s and the 75 and the mentoring coming from Matt Rata and Mera Sasi and the memories of the kuia, Te Puia, and in knowing who was on the marae at the pai, so I could run away and be in the city for some 30 years and be a brat in the city. You know, all of that today is just history, because the reality is that Māori women make up 65% of the prison population, and that was on my watch. That was on my watch. My watch also included in the 1980s, my father and his whole generation, all of them gave themselves over to government jobs. And when the government actually sold state-owned enterprises, then my father, at the age of 55, never worked here in New Zealand again. So I'm looking at the stats here, and in 2000, there were 200 women in prison, Māori women in prison. And then if we just move to 2026, wahine Māori account for 65% of the total prison population, and 68% of those held are held on remand, primarily for shoplifting. And that's a really poor stat. So let's make it happen, people. Kia ora. And to the mamas and the papas out there, tēnā koe. And to you men, I have to say this, stand up, guys, put your shoulders back. I'm tired of looking at you and you're younger than me and you're hunched up like this. Yeah, it's hard, but it's harder for us as women. Kia ora.
I had a funny joke to head my response, but I think I'll save it till the end. I just want to, when I was listening to some of the answers, I think I actually lost what was the question. And I think the question was, how do you represent when 100% of the assets or the whenua is here in the rohe, but 90% of our people live outside of the rohe? So I thought I would not just remind us of what the question was, but also start by asking this question. And how I relate to people. How many people have faced struggles in the education system when they went to school? Put your hand up. How many people have faced troubles getting a job before? Put your hand up. How many people have felt a longing to reconnect home with your marae or with your people? Put your hand up. How many people are on a real journey right now? Put your hand up. How many people want the best start for your mokopuna and want supports and structures in place to ensure that they have opportunities to a brighter and more connected future than what we were given? Put your hand up. Those are the exact same experiences that I've experienced in my life. So I represent e te iwi, everyone who put their hand up today. I also represent, like my mate Luke Moss over there, the large portion of Maniapoto as a 30-year-old. So, you know, these young people, they're 18-year-old, they call me rangarua. But Sam has quite clearly identified that 30 to 35 is still rangatahi, kia ora. So I represent that demographic. I also represent the 90% living outside of the rohe, born and raised in Tokoroa and still there to this day, but constantly going back to te mawhai, to the roots where my grandmother left it for us. I also represent the 100% of Maniapoto who are absolutely beautiful and have the potential to take control of the future of their own lives. That's who I represent.
Kia ora tātou. Do you know this is a big question? And what have we done? When I left in 2006, the movement was to close Waikeria down. What's happened? You know, government are political. They don't make the decisions which they should do and in common justice. What do we find? Since I've been away, they've grown Waikeria, made it even bigger to lock more Maoris up. That's what's going to happen to our young people. Underskilled, underemployment in Waikeria. And they're doing this in Maniapoto territory. How the hell have we allowed that to happen? It's disgusting. It's beholden on Maniapoto to do something about it, not only for Maniapoto, but for the whole of our people in Aotearoa. We're not here to be locked up in prison and have our whenua taken without proper reimbursement for what was lost. There has been no treaty settlement in New Zealand. Taxpayers have not paid nothing in treaty settlements in New Zealand. All it's been is a reduction in the Crown asset base from the land that they took from Maori. The Roia Potai represented 25% of the North Island of New Zealand. You look at the white claims at the Roia Potai, bugger all. That's not settlement. Maniapoto settlement is not a treaty. 200 million is not a settlement. You try and buy the land of Maniapoto back now and see what it's going to cost you. We're going to do something about that. And that's why I think I'm home. Kia ora tātou.
Hello. All right. Kia ora whānau. We talked a lot about our ages and gaps, so I'd like to thank the candidates for completing the partai and articulating yourselves and answering the question in its entirety while maintaining your energy and your mana as we went through that. Now, if I was a rangatahi, I'd probably have to say that a little bit more like congratulations to the candidates who totes ate that partai up with straight up bet. No cap though, you cooked that question with no delulu or brain rot. So, some high risen sigma energy with all that max aura and no sus med. So, kia ora whānau. If you want to learn how to speak rangatahi, I'm offering courses over the next 2 years because that's what we're going to have to learn to interpret as we go through this. All right. So there you go, a little bit of cringe time, and if my son's watching, he's probably telling me when I get home, Dad, don't do that again. Right, last question, and then I will allow you all to break free and go and enjoy the better part of your Saturday. It's a simple question. It's a 1-minute question, and although it's simple, it's probably layered with more seeking how you would value this and how you would make this happen. Should you be fortunate enough to become the representative as a kurerere or a kuratau, as a trustee, how will you ensure our reo initiatives continue ongoing as a pathway to access the future for our mokopuna? Oh, we'll start with you there. Yes.
The real future looks pretty good. The real future for us, though, is in education. We have to train and have the skills so we can keep our people out of jail and out of beneficiary. Present moment, for Ōtorohanga o Māori across the Auckland province is shameful.
Tēnā koe. Tautoko katoa ana I ngā kaupapa pērā I tō tātou kaupapa kuratahi, which is a beautiful wānanga, but it's only but a start of what we need to do. We need to have initiatives which looks at empowering the pai base, not just once a year on an annual event, but how do we do that regularly and consistently on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis? How do we upskill the amount of practitioners, tikanga and cultural practitioners that we have in our space? What are we doing to actively look at ensuring, the te reo strategy? Me pono aku kōrero kare anō kia kite I tō tātou rautaki I reo I āhau e mahi ana I raro I roto I tō tātou whare o te Nehenehenui. So koera tetei atu o ngā mea e kimi nei ahau is a strengthened, strong strategy and how we're going to uplift and upskill our people in all of these areas. Reo, tikanga, e rā atu o ngā mea. Kia ora katoa.
Kia ora. Te reo Māori is really important. Te reo maniaputotanga is the absolute importance. And I struggled in the 80s, even though I was part of the revolution in terms of the renaissance of bringing the reo back. I struggled because I was actually outside of my region, and the only reo I wanted was maniapoto dialect. The other thing is that my mum is 95 and sadly she can't be with us today. But it took her sister, who was 87, to actually talk to me, knowing that I was on film. And she talked about the tragedy of not wanting to be maniapoto, not wanting to be Māori. Because when she was a child here at this school, she witnessed the Greens and the Hōhepas, the boys at the age of 12, being beaten until they bled. Now, as an activist, I learnt that a long time ago. But it took my auntie to actually say to her, she lives in trauma today. She never wanted to be Māori. But I know her passion to want to be speaking Māori is definitely there, and it will never go away. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. I grew up in a house where my father spoke te reo Māori. He didn't speak Māori to us, but he definitely spoke reo. And for me, it's about giving those real platforms somewhere to live. So alongside te reo Māori, we must have ao Māori. Otherwise, where are we to go and do it? So one of the things I will do is uphold my integrity to carry on teaching kapahaka, songs and waiata, and history gets put down through waiata. Whether they're old tawhito songs or whether they're new, jiggy-as, trick-as ones written by AI, they all have a message. And I think if we don't practice them, if we don't have anywhere to practice, then we don't retain. I think for myself, most people who know my tamariki would just automatically assume that they can kōrero iroti te reo Māori, but they can't. So for me, it allows me to think that what I've done in my world of keeping ao Māori alive has enabled them to walk and hopefully learn te reo Māori. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora tātou. A couple of things to kick off. That reo strategy, where is it, what is it? If it's there, then let's make it known. So we'll start there. Tuarua, the piece on trauma. Real trauma is real. And we'll bang our heads all day trying to make real cool. We do it on the daily. And at the same time, how do we uplift and how do we re-engage people with their reo if the level of trauma is so great? Bueno, we have got, luckily, we've got our own uri who have done studies into that space, and so we ought to rope them in and whatever the findings came out of that mahi, to understand how we next move forward. In the meantime, I'll continue on with kapahaka. I'm a second language learner. I grew up I had no reo in my whare until I was about intermediate age. Just before intermediate, I got chucked into a reo rua space, and I saw my mates going down the Pākehā classes. I wanted to go there. I didn't want to go into te reo, but I landed in there, and I love it. I think I am a model of someone who found love for the reo, and so I'd carry on promoting that.
Kia ora tātou. Yeah, I come from, my mum and dad both were reo speakers and never spoke to us. Mum, I used to witness her doing karanga, and that was, it never spoke to us in the whare. One of my commitments to that was to make sure that my mokopuna and my tamariki had an option to go through kohanga reo and up through to kura kaupapa and wherever they wanted to go to from there. So that's a commitment to me, but also me stepping up and continuing to learn my reo. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora tātou. This is a question that I've only recently really had to have a look at. My daughter and mokopuna just moved back from Perth in November last year, and it's all about accessibility. There's a rūmaki at the Ōtorohanga Primary School. We got knocked back from that, and that was my own kura. And then we went to the wharekura o Maniapoto, and it was just because I had some cousins over there that we were able to pull some strings. But we're in even though we're not far from Hamilton, the accessibility to reo speaking schools for our tamariki are very limited. So kuratahi is a good way to do that, but also what are the other options for our tamariki out there? We've got Pukeeti with the early childhood education in Tikawiti, but Iti o Rata, that's full up. So we do need to maybe invest in getting more pukenga that have got that information that they can come and teach our people. So my commitment too is that I'm on the reo journey as well, and that's something that I really, really want to get going for others that are struggling to get into reo, kohanga reo. Kia ora.
Kia ora I te whānau, ko te reo o Maniapoto, te kuaha ki te ao o Maniapoto. Me ako koutou, me ako ki te reo o Maniapoto, tuatahi. I was fortunate to grow up in a home where we had a native speaker o te reo Māori, my mother. So I'm a learner, fresh as learner of te reo o Maniapoto. And so just you can't understand how difficult it is actually to switch my mita. So no apologies to be made here, whānau, if I accidentally don't drop my G's. It is what it is, you know, and I'm on that learning. He maha nā kupu hou ki ahau. So I just want to encourage whānau, whatever stage you're at in your journey, kia kaha, kia maia. Mā te reo ka mōhio. Ma te mōhio ka marama koutou. Kia ora.
Tēnā tātou. I'm a second language learner as well. I started learning at the age of 21. And I understand the mamai that comes with the cost of learning te reo. And you go through various thoughts and feelings when you go through your reo journey, and it's not easy. We currently offer various ways to learn reo, like the kuratahi, but we should amplify. There should be like a kura rima, like tahi rua toru wha, kia ora, yeah, see that, use of reo. amplify those ways, and I often think about our pai, our experts already in that reo, providing them opportunities outside of the rohe to neighbouring tribes and neighbouring kura reo going on there, and taking our reo experts here and showing them other places to build up their kite to ensure that our one is staying full for the knowledge they're handing on. I'd also tune everybody's cars to Te Reo o Te Iwi, MFM 99.6. Kia ora.
Yeah, te tuko, everyone's kōrero. The short end of it is any strategy that's going to support the reo is important, but I just want to ensure that it's te reo me ona tikanga. The importance of that is the way that I learnt the reo is through observation of tikanga. And if we don't ensure that that's understood clearly, because my love of maniapoto is through that observation. The tikanga is really important for us to ensure that that's carried going forwards. My father said to me, just do better than me. But it's a real maniapoto saying, yeah? It's around whanake. Yeah, and if we just improve what we do over generation and generation, we'll be unstoppable.
Tēnā anō, kia tātou. How will I ensure our reo initiatives continue? So there's different ways that we as individuals and as whānau can do that, and a lot of us are doing that and have done that and will continue to do those things. So, but I'm guessing the person who asked this question wants to know how, as a trustee within our iwi organisation, we're going to ensure that our iwi, that there are iwi initiatives across the iwi. There are initiatives across our iwi. So the first thing that came to my mind when I heard that question was, what happened to Te Rautaki Reo a Te Nehenehenui? I'll just leave that with you. It started in 2009. It was picked up, I believe, by Te Reo Irirangi o Maniapoto, and they held it till 2016. And I've tried to look through Te Kauau Rukuroa, Sam, all 32 pages of it, and I cannot find the Te Nehenehenui Reo strategy in there. And my question as a trustee would be, why isn't it there? It should be there. Let's put it in there and let's work it. Tēnā tātou.
Kia ora. The personal commitment to learning the reo, for me, it's been a long time. And as you probably can see, I'm still not there, but I'll still continue, carry on for myself. But for the iwi, I think Kawe Roos has been putting it succinctly on Facebook, what is needed, a sustainable program, I think. He's put it as, and normalising the reo through the trust. I hear of our kohanga in the Ōtorohanga district that their facilities are, falling down. They need investment. They haven't got the kaiako. There's a shortage everywhere, but we can support them at that level and right through. The reo is the gateway to our tikanga and our maniopototanga.
Children can't help how they're raised. Learning te reo is a private or a personal journey. It's a hard journey. My boys, I got 2 sons, we raised them speaking Māori. That meant chairing the board at the kohanga reo, at the kura, at Hatopaora when they went, and they're great speakers of Māori, but I tell you what, it's exhausting. It's an exhausting journey to do. What we can do is that we can look to help people that want to go on their journey. There's other ways we can do we can help people do that. We've got to do it in such a way that people feel comfortable coming with nothing and learning. But you've got to get people that are committed to it. You can't force it on anybody, just like you. Yeah. Thank you.
Kia ora. E tuku mihi ana ki aku kaiako reo Māori, pērā ia Aunty Tuti Aranui, rātau mā o taku tamariki tanga, nā rātau te kākanoi whakatō ki roto i au mo te reo Māori. I agree with what Peter's saying. It's a really personal journey, but there are, I think there is a lot of good movement in Maniapoto in terms in te Nehenehenui, in terms of te reo. When I was at te reo irirangi o Maniapoto, we did take the reo strategy. We established Kuratahi, and it's now in its present form under Roa Limited, which is going, it's fabulous. And but it is personal, and you've got to really want it and want to go there for yourself. And I agree that we should be providing support as much as we can for people. Raukuraro also has a cool kaupapa called Hui Whakawātea, which recognises real trauma in people and why people are not or not able to or haven't started that real journey. And so I think there are some really awesome raumi, and maybe we need to find that rautaki again, give it a zhuzh again, and bring these new things in and you know, make sure we're touching base with what's happening and get it to everyone. Kia ora.
Tēnā tātou, like Jackie, I'd like to acknowledge my first reo teacher, Aunty Tuti Aranui, Aunty Sarah Rauputu. And I'm on the journey to the tomb whānau. And I think I acknowledge that it is a hard journey. I started learning the reo I was at Waikato University with some people that are superstars on TV right now with their reo. Just goes to show that I'm just really, really linguistically challenged. But the reality is, Te Nehenehenui is funding reo programs, Kuratahi, Pākōwhai. We had our pai reo at some stage, but I acknowledge that maybe that strategy is not clear. However, we are sport for choice. Wānanga Aotearoa, Te Atarangi. You know, if you really want it, you will find it. We have Pānia and Leon doing their mahi. So even my whānau in Australia are sport for choice now online. So kei a koutou te tikanga.
Kia ora. I think if I just start with myself personally, we made sure, as Peter's mentioned, that our tamariki grew up speaking Māori, went to kohanga, same journey, ended up being involved in the committee and chairing the kohanga reo. Our children also grew up speaking Samoan at home, so Māori and Samoan, te reo tuatahi ki tō mātou kāinga. But I think if we don't, as parents, encourage our children to make sure that our grandchildren continue on the reo journey, then kangaro te reo. So I think it's really important that we continue to educate our young people when they have children, to encourage them to put them into environments where they can kōrero Māori, even if they can't. On a weekly basis, this is my mahi. So if teachers get stuck, reo Māori teachers get stuck, often get contacted for help. Sometimes schools, and I'm in the situation right now where a teacher left suddenly and a school rang and said, could I go and help there? So I just go in and help on top of the board mahi. So I think, yeah, tīmata i te kāinga. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. I think, what was the word that was used here? It's like accentuate or accelerate opportunities. Engari me kōrero. I think we should whakapakari tō tātou reo. I'm on the pai at Te Kauai. I've been on the pai for a long time. My father put me there when I was younger because he knew that I had to get exposure. I've always loved the reo because Mum and Dad spoke Māori at home to each other when they didn't want us to understand what they were saying because they were normally talking about somebody. That's what got me interested. And also the fact that we had a lot of old people that stayed with us, and when we used to stay up and see them talking, they were just animated, and I thought, who are they? What lives did they live? This is fantastic because their eyes were bright, they were clear, and they were kōreroing 9 to a dozen all the time, and I could sit there watching them, and then I asked people like Aunty Kelly Koroheke to help. So I would tautoko any opportunities as somebody that sits on our pai to learn more about our maniapoto reo, because it is important, and I want to represent my people and my marae the best way possible. Kia ora.
Ka pai. Well, as you can see, the questions are relatively broad, and there's never one simple truth to any of these pātai. I think what we're trying to expose here today for the people who are voting is that we're fortunate to have this calibre of people who want to put their best efforts into te Nehenehenui on behalf of Ngāti Maniapoto me ona hapu maha. And I say that because we always take a very careful step not to tell our iwi that Nehenehenui is the iwi, we're the PSGE, and we represent the iwi of Ngāti Maniapoto. So that way our kids don't come up and say things like, oh, he uri o te Nehenehenui, no, ka i Maniapoto through and through, rere ahu through and through. So the next phase of this whole piece now, whānau, is get out there and vote. You've had the opportunity to hear from the people that have put their time forwards. I can tell you from my experience that once you're a trustee, it's a very full-on gig. You find yourself having to make decisions on the minutiae and on the macro. And you'll have to do things and be in places and represent in ways that you probably never thought you'd find yourself. But what I hope is that, like all of the trustees before you, you take just as much pride in representing your iwi, and I'll take just as much pride in working on behalf of you, as this has been one of the most fantastic opportunities to be here, to be afforded the opportunity to represent Maniapoto as the CEO. And so one last thing, I ask you all to put a large round of applause forwards for our whānau here today who put their best foot forwards. Voting closes on the 7th of September. Please make sure you take every chance to do that. And if you haven't, go down and see Isaiah back there. He'll be able to hook you up. And then from here on, I've got one last dad joke. How do you throw a party in outer space? You plan it. Good night. Sorry, I'll just hand the raka over to Bully to close us.
Tēnā tātou anō e te whānau, I roto i ngā whakakapingatanga, koe huihui ngā whakaaro katoa, ki te tuinui o tō tātou nei whare, kia pai ai, tātou katoa, ki o mātou nei wā kāinga, nō reira me kariki a tātou. E kāne whakanoa ana i ngā wāhi kino, ngā pito pīrau i ngā mahi kino o te wā. E te atua tēnei o mātou nei pononga e tukuna atu ngā whakamumiti whakawhetai. Kia pai ai tō mātou nei whānau, ki o mātou nei wā kāinga, kia nō pai kei wainga nui o mātou nei whānau. Nō reira kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te ata whai o tō tātou ariki ai ukuraiti, me te arau o te atua te whiwina taitanga ki te wairua tapu, ake, 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 āmi.